said for tomorrow night. So I had 3 set up for this week, and now I'm out for 1. So I get a night off.
I guess. Remember the other line.
I know he always does. He always does.
Alert. I have like alerts set up or my subscription for YouTube for the Oldsmar channel, and it pings me like just now live.
What do I do? Oh.
I said I subscribe. You know, my subscription set up for the Sims channel for YouTube, and then alert you when it's live.
Oh, really?
Well,
I always just check back. Good to know.
Just a notification that pops up.
Yeah.
This play is sweet.
The Bears in Chicago. Saturday at 1.
Where's your name tag? You don't know where your name tag is.
What's that?
Where's your name tag?
Right up front.
It's true. It's true. It's a little bit bigger out there.
Right up front. And it never fails. When I wear it, I talk to the rest person. Hey, aren't you? Just kidding.
I like wearing it because I think that it gives people the opportunity to make a connection to your name versus who you are. That's my deal.
That's a good point. We good?
This one is extra.
That's the new starting gun song. Hey, when you have people speaking and they run out of time, can you say time?
You got space?
Yes.
Approved.
Yeah. Yep. I don't expect it. I'd like to call this Tuesday, August 17th, 2021 meeting of the Oldsmar City Council to order. The first 2 items on the agenda are the invocation and pledge of allegiance. If you could all please rise. And before we begin the invocation, which will be led by our city attorney, I'd like to turn the floor over to Councilmember Gannon.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to lift up in a moment of silence tonight family and members of our community. Rob Feld, who was 45 years old, died Monday, August 16th at 8:11 a.m. from severe pneumonia. He was husband of Kim Petey Feld, a longtime member of the Leisure Services Advisory Board, members of our community since 1999. Their daughter, Sarah, is 10. She attends Oldsmar Elementary School. Rob was a scout leader in leadership with the Elks, a softball coach. Just wanted to take a moment to remember them in a moment of silence.
Thank you, Katie. I'd also like to give the floor to our city manager because we lost somebody in the county recently.
Yeah, Clearwater City Manager Bill Horn passed of an apparent heart attack on Saturday within 20 days of his retirement. Bill was a mentor, friend, colleague. He was a guest speaker for our leadership group many times and considered the granddaddy of the Pinellas County managers, will be missed. So ask that everybody pray for his family.
Thank you. Our Heavenly Father, we come humbly before you in a time of sorrow. The death of Bill Horn burdens our hearts, a burden shared throughout the city of Oldsmar. We pray that you will comfort Loretta and welcome Bill into your heavenly kingdom. We are hopeful that your grace and love will be with the Horn family and those present here tonight who share in their pain and loss. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. The next item on the agenda is the Citizens Open Forum. We only have a few rules as it relates to the Citizens Open Forum. Number one, when you come up, we ask that you give your name and address, and please include your city. We don't want to assume you're from the city of Oldsmar. We also ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. And the last item is that we ask that you not speak to any of the items that we have listed for a public hearing tonight. It's going to be a little different, where we will speak at that time. You'll have an opportunity to speak. That's going to be items number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 on the agenda. So, for those of you who are here to speak about the agenda items related to density, show of hands, just to get kind of a sense. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do, since that is a public item, it's public item 9 and 10. I'm going to ask that after we get finished with the Citizens Open Forum, I'm going to ask the council to allow us to move that up, so we'll do it right afterwards. So that kind of keeps everyone going, and you don't have to stay all night with us unless you'd like to. But I have a feeling not so much. So with that in mind, is there anybody on this side of the room who would like to speak, non-related to the density issue? Come right up, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Major Ted Morris. I'm the director of the Salvation Army for Upper Pinellas County, which of course includes the Oldsmar area. Many people are not aware that the Salvation Army is actually a church. We're a denomination of the Protestant Christian Church. And part of our mission statement, our international mission statement says this: our mission is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human needs in his name without discrimination. My wife and I are the co-pastors of the Salvation Army Church located in Clearwater, and our worship service is much like any Protestant service you might attend. The global pandemic has created a new threat of stability to the people of our community, and people living on the edge of poverty particularly. And so as we try to resume our normal lives as best as we can, many families are experiencing a heightened risk of falling below the poverty line, entering a multi-year challenge of poverty, the worst case of this being homelessness. The Salvation Army in this area is in a position to help families stay in their homes, and that's one of our goals. Among other things, our team works with those experiencing a housing crisis by helping them with rent or utility to keep them in their homes. And for those parents who have children at home who want to move their families out of the cycle of intergenerational poverty, we offer a program called Pathway of Hope, which is simply a prescriptive partnership hope program where our case managers walk with them and help them meet their goals, whether educational or occupational goals. So if there's widespread needs in the Oldsmar area, please feel free to contact us at the Salvation Army. We're here to walk alongside you and support you in your efforts to make Oldsmar an even better place to work and to live. Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else on this side of the room? Yes, sir.
Does that say my name? Matt Clark, 501 Pine Avenue South, Oldsmar. Happy birthday, Anne.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to break out singing later, but threatening her with that. All right, anybody else on this side of the room? Citizens Open Forum? Okay.
Jason Sanders, Chairman of the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, 101 State Street. I just wanted to thank City Council and the City of Oldsmar we had a second Friday event last week, which got rained out. We had to call it, to be honest with you, but we had a lot of the citizens. Want to thank the citizens. 30 or 40 of them did come out and brave the wind and rain. But also, so you guys know, your assistant city manager, Felicia Donnelly, with her husband, came out in full rain gear with umbrellas and everything else and braved it for a good 20 minutes or so. So thank you for coming out and thank you for supporting us. And when we get a sunny day, it's going to be that much better. So that's all. Thanks.
All right. Anybody on this side of the room? Citizens open forum. All right. At this time, I'll close the citizens open forum. At this time, I'll ask the city council, I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules of the day for the purpose of moving items 9 and 10 to be next on the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Sensing you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is city attorney. Oh, before we do that, let me do this. Just so everybody's aware, because the public hearing procedure is a little bit different from what we do in a citizens open forum. So I just want to make sure, if you have an agenda, the last page of the agenda lays it out. But just in case you don't have one on you, a public hearing procedure: A, city attorney reads the ordinance. B, the city manager makes remarks. C, staff makes presentation. D, applicant makes presentation. There is no applicant on either one of these items. The mayor opens the public hearing. We have the public hearing. We hear pros and cons. The mayor closes the public hearing. As I said, we have no applicant to make a closing statement. The chair will entertain a motion, a second, then the council discusses, and then we vote by roll call, and the city clerk records and announces the results, okay? So a little bit different. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that up front. All right, with that, city manager?
Oh, I wish I was the city manager.
I'm sorry. City attorney.
Not, sorry, maybe not. Thank you. So this is item number 9 on your agenda. This is the public hearing and for the first reading of ordinance 2021-25, amending the comprehensive plan. I'm going to read that ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2021-25, an ordinance of the city of Oldsmar, Florida, amending policy 6.1.5 of the future land use element to allow for mixed-use developments within certain areas of the community redevelopment district, amending the community redevelopment district land use category listed in Article 7, future land use map, to provide for transient accommodations and provide incentives for vertically integrated mixed-use developments within the area south of Tampa Road and north of State Street, creating a property rights element as required by Florida Statute 163.3177, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2021-25 by title only.
Okay, this is a public hearing. City manager?
Nothing from me other than I'd introduce our planning and redevelopment director, who will make a presentation.
Thank you.
Tatiana.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, council, mayor, city manager. Tatiana Childress, City of Oldsmar Planning and Redevelopment Director. So this is a text amendment to the Town Center Code and City of Oldsmar Comprehensive Plan. This is the same presentation that we had last time with the minor slides that have been updated to include some of the verbal comments that were made. So these slides will be additional to the PowerPoint. Downtown redevelopment has been a council priority for many years. The intent was always to develop a functional and attractive place and recreate a main street. The city worked on multiple concept plans over the years. For activation of downtown, our community needs a mix of uses, including residential and commercial development along State Street. Downtown redevelopment efforts. Over the years, there's been several downtown plan iterations with public input, which included Old Square, REO Station, Park Plaza, Market Square, USF CRA Master Plan, Town Center Plan, and Oldsmar Town Center sketch. Since 2001, there have been 79 public agenda items to discuss development of downtown. 24 of those occurred since 2019. In addition, several RFPs have been issued for developer proposals throughout the years. The next slides, they just include some of the concept plans. So this is Old Square, 2005 to 2009, REO Station, 2009 through 2010, Park Plaza, in 2012. Market Square proposal in 2014. Tampa Road CRA master plan prepared by USF students in 2016. Town Center plan by Stantec in 2017. And Oldsmar Town Center in 2019. The existing conditions on the State Street today already include historic building, open space around the City Hall, newer mixed-use offices and apartments, doctor's offices, and other available commercial space. The following slides include the transformation over the last 2 decades and included public and private improvements. So how do we activate some of the existing places that have been developed over the years and ensure that new development is successful? Well, we have to create a sense of place, encourage a mix of uses, identify catalyst projects, and invest in this streetscape, or continue investment in the streetscape, I should say. What we might be missing, so it might be a catalyst project. This graphic depicts a vertically integrated mixed-use development as presented by the Woodfield. A concept like this, one may facilitate the mix of uses, encourages the pedestrian environment, and may create a catalyst effect in the redevelopment of downtown. The Woodfield concept includes a 3-story residential component above the commercial and retail along State Street. So why vertically integrated use at this location? Well, the City of Oldsmar Town Center is located within the designated activity center, which permits higher densities under the countywide rules. However, current CRD standards do not provide suitable densities to support vertically integrated development. TCCR current zoning standards include, TCCR is established to provide suitable area for retailing and service facilities, residential development at densities of up to 30 units per acre, maximum impervious surface area ratio of 0.9, with a maximum floor area ratio of 2.0, and a maximum height of 75 feet. Therefore, staff is proposing the text amendment. Case 2103 is a text amendment to section 3.7, Town Center Commercial Residential TCCR District. This is a request for a proposed code amendment to revise the TCCR zoning district to allow a density bonus for vertically integrated mixed-use development within the same multi-story building, secured with a development agreement, to provide clarifying language regarding density intensity averaging and mixed-use development within the TCCR district, and also to correct an inconsistency between the maximum floor area ratio in the TCCR district and the CRD land use category of the comprehensive plan. Concurrently, we're filing for the comprehensive plan amendment, so case 2104, comprehensive plan amendment for density intensity standards in the community redevelopment district. Amendments to the community redevelopment district CRD land use category to allow a density intensity bonus for mixed-use development within the same multi-story building for an area along Tampa Road, State Road 580. The proposed incentive in the CRD category would allow up to 65 units per acre for residential, 150 units per acre for transit accommodations, and a floor area ratio of 2.0. Developments exceeding the current maximum density and intensity of the CRD category, which are 30 units per acre and FAR 01, would be required to provide hurricane evacuation, closures, and reentry plans for their specific development. Permits increases in density in the coastal high hazard area to address the proposed bonus density and intensity within the specified area of the CRD category. So the benefits of the vertically integrated mixed-use development include, first of all, the mixed-use development is also referred to as a sustainable development, or smart growth, or new urbanism, or infill development. It originated as a new national growth management technique as a counteracting measure to sprawl in the late 90s to early 2000s. Patterns utilizing integrated mass transit with greater emphasis on protecting natural resources, preserving open space, and revitalizing existing urban cores. Vertically integrated mixed-use development includes compact residential and commercial development within the same building. This graphic here depicts the typical suburban sprawl with a big box store, which usually goes hand in hand together, and versus the other picture, which shows the vertically integrated mixed use. Increased residential density within vertically integrated development will not adversely affect the use of other property in the area. Mixed-use development creates additional housing options for residents, attracts younger, affluent population. Everyone walking by the shops or living nearby becomes a potential customer. It reduces costs to maintain public infrastructure, reduces environmental footprint, and helps to attract new employers. The benefits also include concentration of diversity of activities, vitality, more secure environment, more attractive and better quality of town centers, less need to travel, less reliance on the vehicle, more opportunity for public transport, and social, economic, and environmental benefits. Proposed amendment is also consistent with the goals and objectives of the Comprehensive Plan and Town Center Community Redevelopment Plan. The density intensity bonus for vertically integrated mixed-use development is consistent with CRA Policy 1.4.2. As an initial step to the redevelopment and revitalization of the CRD, the city shall develop incentives to be contained in the LDC, which encourage redevelopment and revitalization through the use of the Community Redevelopment District land use category. And the proposed density bonus for vertically integrated development is an incentive that could facilitate downtown redevelopment. The following slide demonstrates that the available uses to which the property may be put are appropriate to the property in question and compatible with the existing and planned uses in the area. We're not introducing any new uses here, so current density for residential includes 30 units per acre. We're putting it at 65 units per acre. Under the county-wide rules, the maximum is 90 units per acre. The transit accommodations are 80 units per acre in the TCCR. Proposed is 150 UPAs. Countywide is 150, and intensity for the floor area ratio is 2.0 FAR. Today in the TCCR, it is 2.0 FAR for the proposed intensity, and under the countywide rules, 3.0 FAR. The slide demonstrates that we are the community center under the countywide rules, allowing density up to 90 units per acre. As mentioned prior, we're not a major center like St. Peter, Clearwater, or urban center like Tampa. The amendment will not conflict with the needs of the Community Redevelopment District or the city. The city of Oldsmar has been trying to redevelop and revitalize its downtown area and recreate a main street along State Street for decades. The density intensity may facilitate this process by spurring the development along Tampa Road and State Road 580 and increasing the commercial activity along State Street. The amendment will not adversely affect the natural environment. Why is this location suitable for vertically integrated mixed-use development? Well, as shown on this graphic, we have a gradual increases in density, which is consistent with the transect model, going from the RE Olds Park to our E1, E2 larger lots, to R1, R3, R2 district with compact single-family homes, to TCCN district with State Street and St. Petersburg Drive, where we see some mixed-use development at lower densities, to TCCR district, which already permits, again, under countywide rules, some higher densities. Density incentive will only affect the small area located along Tampa Road. In addition, the SWIFMUD requires an ERP environmental resource permit for any commercial projects that are over 1 acre. And this is an infill development with existing available infrastructure. Sufficient potable water supply and facilities will be continuously available to serve the property. The Oldsmar average daily water demand in 2020 was 1.3 million gallons per day. The Oldsmar water supply infrastructure in reverse osmosis water treatment plant has a daily production capacity of 2.0 million gallons per day. Water system, including ours, are designed with additional capacity for future development and needs. With the plans to develop a vital downtown, the proposed fiscal year 22 budget includes water supply plan update to ensure our water supply stays consistent with demand into the foreseeable future. At the time that water demand is less than 75% of the capacity, the the Department of Environmental Protection mandates that the city performs annual capacity analysis reports and begins planning for future supply expansion to meet the projected needs. In addition, each potential development requires to pay impact fees to reserve capacity and is required to extend or increase the existing infrastructure to the new development. Same applies for our sanitary sewer facilities. Adequate sanitary sewer facilities, including treatment capacities, will be continuously available to serve the property. The average daily flow at the Oldsmar Water Reclamation Facility in 2020 was 1.5 MGDs. The permitted ADF at the WRF is 2.25 million gallons per day. The WRF is operating at 67 capacity currently. If and when the ADF is 75 capacity, the city is mandated by FDP to begin preparing annual capacity analysis reports and begin planning for future supply expansion to meet the projected needs. If a new development anywhere in the sewer service area requires an extension or expansion of the wastewater collection system, the addition of this capacity will be the responsibility of the developer to ensure that it's in place prior to the city issuing a certificate of occupancy for the development. Adequate public facilities such as schools, parks, and libraries will be continuously available to serve the property. According to Pinellas County, the county is currently losing their school-age population due to housing affordability in the Pinellas County. There are 2 elementary schools located within the city of Oldsmar, Forest Lakes and Oldsmar Elementary. These schools have the combined capacity of about 1,400 seats, and the combined for total of enrollment last fall was about 944. Based on the preliminary data, it appears that there is unused capacity at both schools at the present time. Adequate public parks and libraries will be continuously available to serve the property. The area is surrounded by multiple parks as shown on this graphics, and Oldsmar Public Library is located on St. Petersburg Drive. The amendment will not grant a special privilege to an individual owner. This amendment would provide a density incentive to anyone who meets the guidelines for a vertically integrated mixed-use development located within the TCCR district. And the boundary that was in question is on the on the east side. So the Park Avenue Plaza is within the TCCR, while the mobile gas station is outside, including Wendy's site, which is also outside. The traffic carrying capacity and the mobility study will be required at the time of the development agreement for each development. I wanted to point out that this location, this property is located at the designated regional multimodal corridor with access to transit. Excuse me. And the amendment will not deter the improvement or development of other property in the area. The staff recommends approval of the TCCR zoning district and CRD as presented to permit a density bonus for vertically integrated mixed-use development, correct an inconsistency between the maximum floor area ratio in the TCCR district and the CRD land use category of the comprehensive plan, provide clarifying language regarding density and intensity averaging. Thank you.
Would you like that read into the minutes? Tatiana?
Yes, please.
Would you like that read into the minutes?
Yes, please. Sorry.
That's right. Okay,
my
thank you
voice.
very much. You need a drink of water, I think, right
Yes.
now.
That was a
That's what I
lot.
gonna
That
say.
was a
That was
lot.
a lot. That's a lot. All right, before you sit down, does the council have any questions of staff I will start with Councilmember Grayler.
No questions from me. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that you did a great job updating the presentation. Thank you for what you did.
Thank you. Councilmember Gannon.
I was just wondering if you could skip back one slide before the recommendations. I just didn't have an opportunity to review. Yes, please,
Oh,
thank you.
sorry.
Can you explain that last bullet point? Detailed impact assessment will be required? What does that mean?
Yes, so the impact assessment will be required at the time of the development. So any traffic, as I mentioned, the detailed traffic impact study will be required at the time of each development, together with like the fixture count. So we only can estimate. It's very difficult to predict what the development might look like in this area because we don't have any concept plans at this time. But when the concept plan is presented, the developer would also provide some kind of like estimate how many trips that particular use may generate, or what type of, if it's apartments, how many gallons per day there would be a demand for, such facility. And so on. So there are multiple things. So we have the concurrency test statement in the code, and based on the concurrency test statement, you have to provide, basically it's just trips per, daily trips, and then estimated gallons of water and sewer
So
capacity.
concurrency test means we check with everybody to make sure that this is feasible.
Yes.
And by everybody, I mean Swift Mud, I mean multimodal traffic sort of impact study.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the staff checks it against the code.
course.
Then we would be required to contact FDOT because any projects located on Tampa Road would have to be, we would have to notify them by code. And schools, the same with schools, if we know moving forward, if we do have a development, so they may have to hire another school teacher to accommodate for this. But that will be done. The detailed assessment will be done at the time of each development. Yeah.
So if we have a development agreement, at some point in the future, all of that information would come back before council.
Correct.
Thank you. Those are all my questions, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Tatiana, could you just provide some clarity for the previously proposed and considered Simone development plan for the hotel? Would either this exact or a similar proposed text amendment have been required? Or Felicia?
Oh, sorry, Felicia Donnelly. No, it wouldn't have, because it didn't require it did require a text change to the LDC, which we did. Probably like a year ago. And then it didn't require an amendment to the comp plan because it was already consistent with the comp plan. So it wasn't a change in the residential density.
Understood. And then as a follow-up, would any or all of any of the prior conceptual plans over the years potentially have required an amendment like this?
I think probably all of them would have. Okay. By looking at the previous densities, they were extremely high, much higher, different iterations, but some of them were very high.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Nope. Thank you.
Thanks, Tatiana.
Very good. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. I'm going to start on the left side of the room. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this matter? Raise your hand. I'll start in the back and work my way forward. How's that? And I should acknowledge that Mayor Beaverland walked in the room. Good to have you, Mayor. We have Mayor Roniker here and Mayor Beavis here. I feel like I'm in trouble or something. A little nervous up here.
Good evening. John Sapir, reside at 601 Washington Avenue. I was up here a couple weeks ago. I read my little paper, and I just wanted to follow up that I am completely in favor of this. Without density, we don't have a downtown. And I know we've been doing this for a long time. And to attract any developers into this area to go ahead and bring in money and to develop downtown, we need density. If not, it's just not going to work, and we're just going to have this. And when I moved here 20-some years ago, this is what I always had hoped would happen, and I think we're this close to getting it. We've been this close before, and then things appear or things happen. So I really hope tonight you guys vote yes to 9 and 10 on the agenda tonight. And everything that Tatiana had said, she's exactly right. And, you know, I know for a fact, anytime you develop in Oldsmar, at least along Tampa Road, they require you to do a traffic study, a concurrency report. Trust me, it's expensive. We don't like it, but it is required. And if improvements need to be made, typically they'll ask the developer to pay for those costs. So if that is a concern on your side, most of the time, the developer has to pay for those, you know, unless there's other agreements for other things, maybe doing offset improvements or something like that. But you know, that's all worked out between staff and everybody. So, but again, I truly hope tonight we move on and we take the next step into getting our downtown. So please vote yes tonight.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on this side of the room? Show of hands. Mayor Beaverland? We moved it up, sir. We're doing it now.
I'm always late for something.
Right.
Mayor and Council, my name is Jerry Beaverland. I live at 512 Pine Avenue South. I've been in Oldsmar for 55 years. And I stand up here offering 29 years of experience as a council member and 10 years as experience as a mayor of the city of Oldsmar, and 55 years of living in this city. First of all, I would like to ask you one question, and then I'll go into my litmus here. I don't usually use notes, but if I don't use notes, then I talk forever, and I know that's going to irritate the mayor, and I really don't care. I'll just keep on talking. At one time, the mayor of Oldsmar, when I was on council, and this will tell you who I am. This was back in 1991. And he said, I'll give you 5 minutes. Well, I took the next 10 minutes telling him what he could do with his 5 minutes. Don't tell me what I can talk, but I can't talk. I talk as long as I want. And him and I never did get along. First question. It may be my only question. How much is this land selling for? And I hope you don't give me an abstract answer.
There's not a price on it yet.
Why not?
Because we don't have a deal with someone yet. But by changing the density, it certainly would increase the price.
I knew I was going to get an abstract answer. Then I'd ask one other question. How can you possibly agree on density when we haven't agreed on a price? I don't need an answer. I just want to let you know that I know I got an abstract answer, and that does bother me. It bothers me a lot, okay? When I got on council back in 1970, which I didn't know what I was doing, it took me about 6 months to learn what a council member was. One of the things I wanted to do is make sure that City of Oldsmar owned a lot of land. Because if you own land, you control it, and you become wealthy. I sat in the audience in 1988, and Bruce Haddock, you know Bruce, he put it on council to buy 4 lots on Lafayette, and it was 5-0 against him not to buy the 4 lots on Lafayette. When I was reelected in 1990, I told Bruce, I want those 4 lots back on the agenda. He says, no, they've already turned me down once. I said, do I have a right as a council person to put something on the agenda? Yeah, I said, put it back on the damn agenda. I said, I wasn't here when you put them on in 1988. It got on the agenda again when it came up to a vote. I made my speech, which sometimes can be passionate, and the vote was 4-1 to buy the 4 lots. I told the council, the city does not get big, does not get wealthy, does not get strong against builders unless you own the land. Okay. I'm leading by this mirror so I don't go off on a tangent. I've always tried to, and I invite anybody on council to go back in any vote I ever made in 29 years. The first thing I would consider is how it affects the citizens of Oldsmar. Does it make it better? Does it make us better? Does it make us stronger? How does it make us? But more important than that, any vote I ever made, I'm gonna give you some examples. How did it affect the residents around my vote? I always considered the residents out there, how I was going to affect them with my vote. Give you the first example. They were going to build townhouses on St. Petersburg Drive next to the library. And they were going to open up the back of it to Arlington. I said, you can't do that. Oh yeah, we can. And I was the only individual that made an argument not to open up that, turn that thing off. Not to open up, and I love you. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're going to affect the people on Arlington for the rest of their damn lives as they live in the city of Oldsmar. You don't have traffic from that development over on Arlington and not on St. Pete Drive. I was against it. The other council members were all for it. I guess we went 3 council meetings or whatever. And each one I said, you can't, I will not affect those people on Arlington by letting that development people go out on their street to get out to Tampa Road. By the time, I think the mayor and I was at odds at the end of all this. Yeah.
Remember.
The final vote was 4-1. They came to my side and turned the development down with that egress out of Arlington Road. I'll give you another example. Consider the citizens that you're going to affect. You live on Hayes Road. I was on council, we bought all the land west and south of Hayes Road, all of it. There's a beautiful piece of land across from that, isn't it? Dale Blakely owned it. And he was considering selling it to a hotel way back yonder. I said, Bruce, can't do that. We're going to have development on Hayes Road someday. And they're going to come out of their house, and they're going to walk onto Hayes Road when we finally build it. There's going to be a hotel setting there. He says, well, what do you want to do about it? I said, let me go talk to Dale, which I did. Blakely's owned all the industrial, the first phase of the industrial land out here. They were part of the Janeway Corporation, who owns 6,000 acres south of Oldsmar. I said, Dale, that land, I want you to trade it to the city. And he said, well, what are you going to give me for it? I said, well, you want some privileges from some of your land in the industrial park. So trade with us and we'll give you a zoning if you want. Long stories, but he said, okay. We got the land across from where you live And the first thing I told Bruce, that's the land, when this all developed, we need to put into a park. And it became a park. That hotel that was either gonna build there or a convenience store or whatever was not built there, so you'd never be affected by it. One other example, Dale owned land on Forest Lakes Boulevard, the corner of Pine Avenue and Forest Lakes Boulevard, if you know the corner out there. Well, then there was a road that came around there that belonged to the county, and they gave that road to the city of Oldsmar. That corner was huge, huge. Dale owned it. And Bruce and I talked about that again, and this ain't gonna work. I went to Dale again. I said, Dale, I know what you want. You want to develop all of that land behind on Pine Avenue, behind that little restaurant there, where all of those my doctors there, all those buildings that he rented out to a lot of people on Pine Avenue and Tampa Road. I said, you want some right of way? I mean, we can fight you over it. He said, I'll let you all buy that corner lot, that piece of land for a right of way and some zoning. Talked to Bruce, and Bruce says, okay. He was going to build a huge gas station there, a convenience store, and a bunch of other little stores there on that corner. I said, you can't do that. Can't do that to the woods, the people that live in the woods, the people that live in the preserves, the people that all live down there. You're going to drive out there and see a huge damn gas station out there. I said, I will never support it. So we got the land, and we sat on it for a long time. And finally, Bruce came up one time, he says, well, I've got an offer on the land for townhouses. I'm for it. Then I had somebody in the woods call me and say, didn't you promise there'd never be anything on that? I said, yeah. I promised there'd never be a gas station and a convenience store. He said, that's right, that's what you promised. So what I'm saying is, when you do a zoning and make a decision, I could go home that night and I wouldn't care whether you saw a hotel or anything else there. It wouldn't bother me at all. I go to bed at my house. But it bothered me. It bothered me when I voted for Lafayette Boulevard, where you live, which was a rotten little shell street that flooded every time it rained. And I made the motion to pave the streets in this damn town. 7 miles, which included Lafayette. Because of my wife, we double-laned Lafayette. The mayor, or the city manager said, can I put another $1 million on your bonds when you're gonna pave the streets? I said, what's it for? He says, do the drainage on Lafayette. I said, put the $1 million on that, an extra $1 million on the bond for my streets. Not my streets, but my program. So you don't go out there anymore and flood. Every decision I've ever made, I've tried to figure how it's going to affect the people that live on there. I'm the one that needs the water, not her. Anyway, all my experience, I've made mistakes. I've irritated the city managers at times. I irritated the city clerk one time and the city attorney one time and got rid of them. And he's the best city attorney in this damn state. I'm real close to being the best in the state.
Best in the business.
I want to raise.
Help.
He was my choice. Anyway, when you make a decision, this whole thing comes to a climax because of a stupid damn parking garage. And I would always be against the city building a parking garage. But be careful. You may end up paying for the parking garage anyway in a different way. Be careful. That's why I asked how much we're selling the land for. I was mayor when we bought that land.
I was on council.
It was like 3.3 million or something. Bruce and I was part of the negotiation with them. We said, we're not going to pay you that kind of money. That's ridiculous. It wasn't worth that. They finally tore it down. Nobody wanted that land. So he finally said, how much you pay us? We told them, how much would we pay? And I told them, we paid them a lot less than 3.3 million. I know what we do. You know what we paid for it. That land can be an incredible piece of land for the city of Oldsmar. I want to tell you all something.
Mayor, you're killing me. You're killing me. There's like 30 people who want to speak.
That's okay. I've been here till 1 o'clock in the morning. You can just sit there. The development is okay, but development for development is not okay. Be careful what you develop. I've been through this 4 different times with that stupid parking garage and everything else down there. Make some sense of how you vote. I'm not going to. It's up to you. It's not up to me or anybody in here. It's up to y'all to do the voting on it. But just consider who you're going to impact. One other thing, Mayor, and I'm going to go home and make you real happy.
You're right.
Who said that?
Someone in the back.
Whoever it is, you just sit here and listen to me.
Sure. Come on.
Come on.
Well, I get as cranky as anybody.
I know.
One other thing that I'm going to ask the council. I got 2 more things I want to say later at another time. I'm bringing before you a comprehensive history of Oldsmar that each one of you can have. Their volume is about like this. There's 8 of them. I'm going to give each one of you 8 damn volumes like that on the history of this city. So at least you know what it's all about. One other thing, Mayor, I would plead with you and the council to contact the University of South Florida, the governmental department, and have a good work session on the city manager type of government. I don't think any one of you really knows the city manager type of government. Felicia needs that information. Hi, Felicia. She's never been a city manager. She's going to be. She can benefit from that work session on the city manager type of government.
We'll dig into it. Promise.
Please.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you for listening to me. Council, thank you.
It's not as if we didn't have a choice, but, thank you. I wanted to be respectful because of all you've done for the city over the years, so I hope you felt that that's how you were treated.
I appreciate it. I want to apologize for my long. I'm just that way, man.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody on this side of the room? Right there. Now, just so you know, I have asked the clerk that when we hit 5 minutes, she says
Be much
time.
shorter.
Because sometimes I don't always hear it up here. So I did hear it that time, though.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jessica Opit, O-P-Y-D. I live at 407 Tangerine Drive in Oldsmar. I've been an Oldsmar citizen for 19 years. I've been a Florida resident for 45 years. I've driven in and out of Oldsmar many, many times. I fondly remember in 2002 when my company, Daycare Health System, opened a central business office here on State Street. And the very warm welcome that the city of Oldsmar gave to our company. And actually that warm welcome was one of the reasons that I ended up buying a home in Oldsmar. I thought, well, what a warm welcome we got. I should look around. And so I did, and I was impressed with what I saw. And I've been very impressed with the growth that Oldsmar has had over the years that I've been here. And I feel like we're ready to grow more. And I think we have the capacity to do that, but we need the legalities resolved so that we can grow in the way that we think we'd like to grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Next person
Jesse.
on this side of the room. Go ahead.
Hi, Linda Wells, 2007 Dover Court, Oldsmar. Learned gentleman and lady. My question is just very, very simple. I'm concerned about the water. Now, they're saying that we're at 1.3 now, we have capacity for 2. Do we have any projections on what we think this addition is going to take up in our clean water? Are we going to have to add a new facility? Are we looking into that? Is it going to be able to handle everything, even the recycled water? And because our water is wonderful, and I'd hate to see for it to go down.
I agree. I believe staff's report addressed that, and in it, I think they said that we had, well, plenty of capacity to answer your question.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person on this side of the room, in the back.
Evening. Justin Colmo, downtown resident, 301 Park Boulevard. I'm finally recognizing some faces out there now. So, last time I was up here, I didn't really prepare anything. I decided to change that a little bit and add a little bit something to read from that I wrote today. So I won't be off script too much, and I should be able to make my 5 minutes. The last time we all gathered, it seemed like this room was divided. You were either for or against, yay or nay. Neighbors against neighbors trying to agree on how we shape downtown. The funny thing is, we're not really that divided. Right half of the room and the left half of the room, I think we all want the same thing. We're just saying it differently. We want a downtown that works, a destination full of activities and shops and restaurants, a place to walk, a place to take our bikes and our golf carts. An attractive little downtown with stuff to do. Being against this project is not being against Oldsmar. Woodfield wants to develop a 10-acre section of the most prime land that Oldsmar has to offer. State Street right between Park and Washington. I've been to their website. As an engineer, I love a lot of their designs. I love what they do. Beautiful stuff. Kudos to them. I can't get around the fact that architecturally, our downtown would look pretty dope. So how can we make that all happen without doubling our population density? Anyone? You sit here and say that we need 316 new apartments for this all to succeed. That's a lot of pressure to put on them, don't you think? You're saying that the success of our little downtown rests on the shoulders of a couple hundred people living nearby. I live nearby. It feels a little bit like I'm the one that needs to save the shops. If that's what's going to make or break our little downtown, you just missed 500,000 people that live in the upper Tampa Bay area, people who drive through here. These luxury apartments that they're putting up, they don't do anything for me. They don't do anything for Forest Lakes, Woodlands, East Lake, Oaks. They're dwellings where people rest their heads, get up, and drive off to work in the morning. That's not going to put Oldsmar on the map. 850 new parking spaces. By my calculation, 550 of those have to be reserved just for the residents. Plus you have apartment guests, workers, and city officials right next door. That's not a lot left to the public. You call it mixed use, yet the public only gets a sliver of that 10-acre plot. You're giving us a handful of glass-walled storefronts, but no guarantee that we're actually going to get any stores. Are there any stipulations out there that only certain businesses can move in? Are there incentives to get these businesses on their feet? Woodfield will get what they want, and we will end up back where we are right now. You give them the population density they want, and that's all future developers are going to be interested in. You're giving up a lot for Oldsmar. I'll ask this again, how can we get a proposal like this without more than doubling our population density downtown? You probably can't. If you're doing what I asked of you, Woodfield is just going to pack up the circus and leave. I'll bet my shirt on it. We've gotten here through desperation, 20 years of it. Desperate decisions lead to regret. You bulldoze your way into this deal and give all that power and all that land to one single developer, and you'll get buried. No nearby town was built in a day. Oldsmar is 20 years behind, and guess what? It's going to continue to be 20 years behind. But that's okay if we're moving in the right direction. The single worst thing we can do is make up for that 20 years with haste and desperation. Vote what you want, but don't vote out of desperation. The moment you hand over 65 units per acre, you can't take that back. And one last thing, telling people that they're wrong or they don't have enough information, that's not good enough. I'm happy with the presentation that they did today and some of the information that's been on the website, but it was pretty hard getting to that. I'm almost done. Putting information out into the black hole of the internet is not doing your job. It's not good enough. In Oldsmar, you can't even split a land parcel without informing the whole neighborhood. You're going to drop.
I'm going to ask you to go ahead and stop so that we can just get everybody in. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, though. All right. Anybody else on this side of the room? Go right ahead.
Hi, Valerie Tadaszewski, 1200 Sawgrass Court, Oldsmar, Florida, over by the ice rink. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, guys.
That's all right.
This is my first city council meeting, so
But
I'm happy to be here. I'm usually watching it on YouTube, which is one of the best things you guys have done, because now I can attend. I've got a kid at home, and it's hard for me to make the meetings on a Tuesday night, so.
Good.
I'll just say right from the bat, I'm asking you to vote no on the density, mostly because we don't have a full plan. There's not been a lot of information. I understand that there's going to be more information. I heard you say there's like 23 steps, so there will be more coming. So what I'm asking you to do is delay your vote until we have all that information and you've heard what the public has to say. I myself have been confused about this project. I'm actually Ginger's daughter-in-law, so she was like, you've got to watch the last meeting. This is really important. Stuff's going on downtown. So I watched it. I actually thought that she was talking about the project that they had boards up in the library for, that was like the USF project that they created. Because there's been so many different projects over the years. I mean, they even said in the presentation, there's been 79 different conversations. As a busy parent and resident of Oldsmar, it's very difficult to keep up with that information. So what I'm asking you guys to do as a council is just to provide more information. And I do have a couple of examples that I just kind of came up with off the top of my head for getting more info out there and getting more people. I understand there's another public meeting about zoning, and just to get that information there, because I think a lot of residents don't know that it's even happening. One suggestion was Facebook. I know you guys post on Facebook about the meeting, and there's like a link there for the agenda, but a lot of it's really vague. So like if you could even just put in like really simple terms, there's a public hearing on zoning for the new downtown. Something that when you're scrolling through Facebook, you can see it grabbed your attention. You actually know what's happening at the meeting. Instead of I had to click 3 or 4 times to even get to what the agenda was tonight. Another one is a flyer, maybe in our utility bill. I know a lot of people get that electronically as well. You could attach that flyer to the email as well. Here's what's going on at our public meetings. Another one was plans at the library. The boards, those were great. And I encourage you guys, when you get further in the development and you have an idea from this builder, to do that so that people see it. A lot of people visit the library and the rec center. And if you could have a sample of something in both places, I think you'd get to a lot of people and they would be more informed. And then a third one was like a text campaign or maybe a recorded notice. I mean, we get texts when there's sandbags, so I know you guys have my number. So I'm just saying, it's a way, I don't know how much that costs you per text, but it seems like a fairly simple way to get information out there. And I think that a lot of the discontentment with this project is people feeling like they're uninformed. And so it's just some examples of ways that you guys could maybe settle everyone down. We're not trying to hide information from you, but when you do go on the city website, it is hard to get some of the information that you're looking for. I am on the city Facebook page and I was confused myself. So I just wanted to put that out there. Also a quick note, I have a degree in social work, so my point of view is always kind of from that version. I know in Pinellas County right now, we have a housing crisis for affordable housing. So I just encourage you guys when you're in negotiations with this project to encourage the builder to make these apartments affordable for people who work in Oldsmar. Because we want people who work and live in Oldsmar to be able to afford these apartments, and they look pretty bougie. So I know myself, what I bought my house for here in Oldsmar back in 2013, I couldn't afford to live in these apartments as what you're showing. And so just a suggestion. And then also I wanted to say a quick thank you to Andrew and Steve. You guys met with me and talked with me, and I appreciate your time. I know you guys have families, so you took time out, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the back of the room?
So I'm Ginger Tadaszewski, 303 Park Boulevard. I'm very technologically challenged, and I had a great deal of trouble with this, and I'll try to get through it quickly. Just some thoughts I put together. Oldsmar, a great place to live, work, and play. Here's Oldsmar's oldest building. I think that sets the tone for downtown. It's beautiful architecture, flowers, trees, and everything around it, and that's basically where we're the beginning of our downtown. I took some of Tatiana's slides. Many plans have been presented over the years. This one was from 2012. This one was further back than that. These are the ones I found easily online, and this is the Woodfield plan. So I did a lot of research this week. The Global Urban Economic Dialogue Series case studies, small town development approaches. The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill identified, studied, and documented 50 case studies of small towns across the United States that are using a wide range of community and economic development strategies to advance their community's vision for prosperity. I read all 50 of these cases. None of the cases had an apartment building with mixed use. Brevard, North Carolina. City worked with Transylvania County to assemble a network of retirees who provide a range of services to entrepreneurs and local small business owners. We have people with every kind of business experience you can imagine, said the coordinator, from human resources to engineering to marketing, finance and accounting, even some Fortune 500 companies. Ord, Nebraska. The City of Ord, the county, and the Chamber of Commerce worked out an interlocal agreement under which the three entities committed to work together and to share the cost of and revenues from community and economic development. City, county, and chamber each agreed to contribute $15,000 a year for a 3-year contract to build a cohesive program. Second, residents passed a 1-cent sales tax for economic development. Revenue from this tax could be used for business loans and other incentives or leveraged as matching monies for grant money. Communities can grow by choice or by chance. Abraham Lincoln used to say the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. Communities with a vision for the future will always be more successful than communities that just accept whatever comes along. Do we want to be Safety Harbor in Dunedin? Another mistake is thinking that economic revival is about the one big thing. American communities are littered with projects that were sold as a silver bullet solution to a city's economic woes. Whether it is a convention center, casino, new mall, factory, sports arena, or an aquarium, city after city has followed the copycat logic of competition. If your city has a big convention center, my city needs an even bigger one. Festival marketplaces, for example, worked fine in cities like Boston and Baltimore, but similar projects went bankrupt in Toledo, Richmond, and Jacksonville, and a dozen other communities. Successful economic development is rarely about the one big thing. More likely, it is about lots of little things working synergistically together in a plan that makes sense. In her award-winning book, The Living City, author Roberta Gratz says the successful cities think small in a big way. Successful communities also use education to encourage voluntary actions by citizens. Why do cities and towns need to use education? Because education reduces the need for regulation. Also because people and businesses will not embrace what they don't understand. Finally, community education is important because citizens have a right to choose the future, but they need to know what their choices are. All development is not created equal. Some development projects will make a community a better place to live, work, and visit. Other projects will not. The biggest impediment to better development in many communities is a fear of saying no to anything. Communities that will not say no to bad development will get the worst of everything. The proof is everywhere. Communities that set low standards or no standards will compete to the bottom. On the other hand, communities that set high standards will compete to the top. This is because they know that if they say no to bad development, they will always get better development in its place. Too many elected officials have an it'll-do attitude toward new development. Worse yet, they'll accept anything that comes down the pike, even if the proposed project is completely at odds with the community's well-thought-out vision for the future. They are simply afraid to place any demands on a developer for fear the developer will walk away if the community asks too much. This is especially true when dealing with out-of-town developers or with national chain stores and franchises. The lessons learned is that successful communities have high expectations. They know that community identity is more important than corporate design preferences. And this was just my idea board of things that might be downtown someday: shaded walk areas, some little art projects, some visually stimulating lighting and trees. Stormwater system integrated into the park area, which I think you guys talked about with the Dutch company. Partnering with successful businesses already. Maybe an Ari Olds museum. Bars and restaurants are not guaranteed to fill retail space without forethought. Oldsmar, a place to live, work, and play. Can I just have one more second?
Go ahead.
Okay, Woodfield, I did a study on Woodfield this week. They have had 53 developments since they began business. All but 2 were apartment buildings. And a quote from the guy who presented the Woodfield development to you: "We specialize in apartments." That is what he said to you all. And they do. He was right. And if we want apartments, I would go to him, because they do apartments.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure we don't want apartments here. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Moving on. This side of the room. Go ahead. Work my way back.
All right, thank you for having me. My name is Mike Boylan. I live on 576 Lake Cypress Circle on the other side of Tampa Road. And I am in favor of this 100%, so I hope you guys, girls, get to vote yes tonight. I grew up as a Florida native, grew up in Palm Harbor. I've seen progress. I've seen Tampa Road go from 2-lane to 4-lane to 6-lane. Can't stop it. Tampa Road isn't stopping. We can stop this project, but it's still BITCH on Tampa Road. So if we don't have this, we're going to have to go to Dunedin, Safety Harbor. So progress you can't stop. And I do not believe this is going to change the fact that we're growing. And this is eventually we're going to grow somewhere else if we don't like it. So that to me is not what should stop this project. I think Oldsmar has a lot of parks. We have record parks, right? We have record places on the water, BMX.
hockey, fishing. So we still have all that. But we got a future to think about, I believe. I'm younger. I still feel like I'm young. I'm in my 40s, but I have kids. And I believe that we need to grow. And I think we got to have stuff like this as a community to have an active center. Just my opinion. I love Dunedin, I love City Harbor. This is not a small town. This project isn't going to make our city small. I mean, we have to accept it. Like I said, look at Tampa Road and, the traffic at Forest Lakes. Now, where I live, I didn't have a choice. We've had apartments put in. We've had growth all around me. And you just adapt. I mean, you can't stop progress and just have to embrace it. But I love what the city's done with the homework. That presentation was phenomenal. I looked at a lot online. I think you guys have done your homework. I can't see, other than our local codes, as a county, the rules are in place. We're right in line with other areas. I totally agree with where you guys are coming from. And, I just think that as a resident of Oldsmar, it's what our family wants. And we just hope that you guys vote yes, because I want to live here and I want a thriving place to see. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving back. Dave?
Mayor Beaverland yielded the rest of this time to me. 124 Shore Drive Place. So those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, Sir Winston Churchill. In the last meeting, Mayor Beavis and others touted that this plan had been in work for 20 years. So let's see where we're at after 20 years. We do not have a viable, walkable downtown area with storefronts, restaurants, or bars. We don't have a set final plan in the downtown area. We don't even have a preliminary plan. We haven't performed any of the necessary studies that were needed. We don't have a signed contract with a firm, designer, and/or developer. In April 2020, the city of Oldsmar sent out an RFQ, all to go over design plan and even oversee construction services. Clearly, this is an RFQ to start start completion objective. What happened to this RFP? In September meeting, the council voted 3-2 with the development agreement to go to the development agreement with Simon. And included in this vote was understanding that the Simon Group would be, as they presented their proposal, will pay $2,000 per parking space. Also, this figure was reprinted in a memo from Assistant Manager Donalita Brightway to be included in your package. On October 29th, the city manager received a letter from Woodfield Development with a proposal to design and development project. In other words, in the words of city staff, this is a change in strategy for the city to go from city developer to allowing developer to take the project on entirely. 4 days later in your meeting, the city council amended their agenda and put that letter on there for a vote. They voted 5-0 to contract with Woodfield. The council claims to keep the public informed about their progress in downtown development, but what it really means is that we'll let you know what we voted on. Stay tuned for more. Again, no chance for planned public input, no preliminary studies or research. 4 days from the receipt of a letter, council approves negotiation. Is this responsible government? Was this advertised in RFP to see whether there were other developers, designers that may have a better plan or at least maybe more cost proposal be competitive? It requires state statute, and 168 says you should need to go out and advertise it. How about going back to the firm that was rated highest in that RFQ back in April? The city council jumped on this proposal as fast and changed the strategy quick, as to say, as Leave It to Beaver terms, gee, Wally, this sounds really well. Let's go for it. I just lost the millennials there. Anyways, January 5th, the council voted 5-0 to terminate Simon, according to the newspaper article written by Jeff Roosevelt entitled Downtown Oldsmar Project Suffers Another Setback. The dispute was over to $2,000 per space. That was increased to $20,000 per space. The mayor later claimed this was a clerical error. Well, this clerical error was a $1.8 to $2.7 million error. That's probably a pretty substantial error. Did none of the council members use a calculator in the September meeting to go over this? I have no doubt that there will be another article soon called Downtown Oldsmar Suffers Yet Another Setback, because I have all the confidence in our Pinellas County leadership this will not pass their board, because they are not just an advisory board, and they are well informed, and they know land development. They will see what this is. It's recklessness. In March, again, you added another agenda item added the meeting and had presentations. Again, you voted Woodfield for negotiations. In conclusion, the density ordinance this time is reckless and irresponsible government. All because the Woodfield development says it has to happen before they do the design, all without a signed agreement. In the May workshop, it was said Woodfield is a good partner. This is a for-profit company whose only goal is to maximize their profit. They are not the city's partner. This is a dangerous mindset. Avoid yet another bureaucratic train wreck. Step back and look for some professional, non-biased guidance to the downtown development project. Say no to this ordinance at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Back there? Yep.
I got it in.
You did.
Thank you.
I was impressed.
Hello, how you doing? Hi, everybody at City Council. Yeah, means I will have already...
Name and address.
My name is Usman Azid, and I am a proud resident of Oldsmar. I bought my first home in Oldsmar in Astoria of Mobley Bay in 2008. And then I bought my first business over here in Oldsmar, and I have a very proven track record. I'm here to support this cause. I'm absolutely here to support this cause, not 100%, 5,000%. I'm all for this development. All, in my personal opinion, right, this development of the downtown project should go. Whatever you have designed, I have seen, right? I'm not saying just to say it. You can see I did it my own also. I bought a lot over here. I redesigned the building. I'm very proud to tell you, if anybody wants to see, some people have seen it. I have designed one of the most well-decorated and most modern doctor office in the whole state of Florida. I am very proud to tell, and I have a challenge, nobody has a doctor office like that. If I did it for my own cause, 5 minutes from downtown, I should be supporting this downtown redevelopment cause. I appreciate, Mayor, your cause. I fully support you. I support City Council, whoever is voting positive for this. If somebody is voting against that, I have a respect for that. But this redevelopment is going to create jobs. It is going to redefine the Oldsmar. When I was buying my building over here, one of the biggest thing is, right, because I hire doctors and providers from all over US, right? When they land at Tampa airport, if they do not find a cheap hotel over there, right, the first thing what they do is they put 15 to 20 minutes from Tampa airport. You know what comes? Oldsmar comes. Otherwise, the second development is going for St. Pete. I just met a very nice lady. She's a realtor. She's trying to find a lot for me. She met ex-mayor of St. Pete. He is going to plan the same type of development in Winter Haven over there, right? Look at what Jane Castor is doing in Tampa. Look at what happened in St. Pete. When I came to first time in the United States in 2000, right? I used to pass this Hillbrook, right? There used to be a chicken shop where you go over there. It was nothing, right? So I praise all of you, especially Mayor, you, everybody. I fully support this. I fully support this. I fully support this. If I can be of any help in this redevelopment and all that stuff, I consider myself a part of this downtown development, because my development, I'm also building another building, like a very big tower over there. I'm trying to build the Microsoft of telemedicine over here. Already, when I came for the first city council meeting like 3 years ago, I used to have only one location. Now I have 9 telemedicine locations. Everything is happening in Oldsmar over here. I fully support you guys. Good job.
All right. I thought you were coming back because you didn't get more than 5 minutes. I'm like, really? Like, come on, man. All right, right there, sir.
I live at 208 Chestnut Street South, Oldsmar, right in front of the elementary school. I've been lied to once already. Don't know whether it was by you or by the school board, but the entrance into Oldsmar Elementary School was supposed to be a secondary entrance. It is now the main entrance into elementary school, and it's a 4-way stop. And I cannot go out in my street and walk my pet or anything without somebody running the 4-way stop. And it's usually mothers with their children. And if I say something to them, I get the finger. My biggest problem with this whole situation is I don't care what you do with downtown Oldsmar. I'd love to see Oldsmar have a heart. But for you to consider increasing the density from 30 per acre to 65 per acre is absolutely ridiculous. If you want to meet us in the middle, then let's have a meeting and meet in the middle. But let's not double or more than double the amount of traffic that we have coming in now. You have to think about our kids that go to these schools. We have 2 elementary schools in this town, and to bring this much traffic by increasing the density, I will vote against it every chance I get.
And what's your
Thank you
name,
very
sir,
much.
for the record?
Pardon me?
Your name?
Robert Balch.
Thank you.
Want me to spell it for you?
She probably, oh, yes, she wants to spell it.
B-A-L-C-H.
Yeah, we have to do it
Yeah,
for
and
record
that's cool,
purposes.
man. I mean, I got nothing to hide. I'm just telling you. What you
No, I
guys-
wasn't
you
trying
know.
to, I'm not gonna stalk you.
I'm just saying.
I'm not a stalker. Well,
We
you know,
don't need
my wife
this
will tell
many
you different.
extra people in our town.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Got it. All right, thank you, sir. Mayor Beavis.
I promise I won't be 85 minutes long. Doug Beavis, 359 Bay Arbor Boulevard. And if it's all right with the mayor, I would like to ask a question for clarity of Councilmember Saraki regarding the previous meeting and the vote. And also, if it's okay with you, I'd like just clarity.
You know what, I think you're able to state a question openly, but I don't know that.
It's up to him, and I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the right time, Doug, to answer the question.
You don't have to answer it then. Can I ask it?
Your 5 minutes.
Okay. I watched the meeting, just for clarity, really. I'm not picking sides or anything. I watched the meeting again, and it appears that you supported a density change for the city-owned property next door as you held up the developer packet and said, this is what we want. And that your concern, as I understood it, is that the change to the remainder of the TCCR from Bayview on the west to the indicated Wendy's on the east, as I understood it. And if that is correct, as I understand, and I think Tatiana brought it up tonight, that the boundary does not go to Wendy's. It stops on the east end of the Parkland Plaza, which is where Beechwood and Buffalo Wild Wings is located, just before the gas station. The TCCR east of St. Pete Drive is already developed with 3 hotels, a bank, a restaurant, and the Beechwood Plaza. So I don't see that as an area of concern for vertically integrated mixed use in that area. Besides that, I'm not sure that the gas station or the Wendy's are even big enough to develop a vertically integrated mixed use. The property at Bayview and Tampa Road on the east side is already a non-conforming use and is part of the TCCR, and redevelopment in that area would be perfect for a vertically integrated mixed-use project with a development agreement with the city. I wanted to again discuss what could currently go on this property next to City Hall without going to the planning board and just need Tampa Road corridor approval. This picture, as you all know, is the Daycare, as you mentioned, oh, she's gone, the Daycare building at the end of St. Pete Drive and State Street. It's next to Dr. Shim's property. It is about 40,000 square feet, which means you could put not one of these or 2 of these or 3 of these, you could put almost 6 of these buildings on the property next door. 150 residential units and the hotel and the parking garage. Oldsmar is lucky that the city had the vision to buy up this property starting back in 2002, so we had more control over what could go on the property. And I believe Jerry Beaverland talked at nauseum about, about buying property. So it's something that we've always done. I have heard doing nothing with it or make it a park. I was at the budget meeting last night, and page 26 of the amazing report talked about our community profile. Oldsmar has 11 parks, 8 playgrounds, 1 rec center, 1 community center, 6 baseball fields, 3 softball fields, 4 tennis courts, 3 basketball courts, 3 soccer/football fields, 25 picnic areas, 3 boat ramps, 4 fishing areas, 1 BMX track, 1 spray park, 1 preserve, 1 disc golf course, 1 outdoor hockey rink, 8 pickleball courts, 2 bocce ball courts, and a shuffleboard court. And the budget for that to run those is $1,117,495. And this year, that's going to include $15,000 for fabric at the fabric fencing at the tennis courts. And last year's budget included $400,000 for the upgraded spray park. All of these items are free to residents to use. So doing nothing or making a park is far from free. The city will not do nothing on that property. If this property or if this project or one similar to it does not happen, with us owning it, it is my guess, and just my guess, that the city would probably sell the property, recoup the money we spent on it, and the residents would get whatever the buyer wanted to put on the property based on its current zoning. The density increase in today's environment does not directly equate to more cars on the road, and we'll find that out with the traffic study. As so many of us are working from home and would expect that would also apply in this development. I read something about the misinformation about the selection of Al Braithwaite as the city manager, and it discussed that we should have done a national search. Councilmember Saraki and Mayor Seidel and myself were on that process. We did reach out. We reached out to, I believe, 65 candidates. They shortlisted that down to 10 people, and those people did a video interview. And it was clear by watching those. And again, a council manager form of government is the selection of the council. The city manager, the city clerk, and the city attorney is at the pleasure of the city council. And it was clear by watching those videos of the 10 shortlisted that we made the right decision in picking Al Braithwaite as our city manager. I guess I'm a Jerry Beaverland. I just want to say that they're saying that, they're just saying that, we're not providing enough information about it, but I also got to emphasize that misinformation is not helpful as well to the residents. So we want the facts, we want everything out there, but misinformation does not help either. So thank you.
Thank you. Very good. And I appreciate you keeping pretty close to the timeline as a mayor, past mayor.
Yeah.
Anyhow. All right, let me move this way. There. Hands, speakers. Go.
Jason Sanders, President of Power Clean Corporation at 101 South Bayview Boulevard. And with all due respect to Jerry Beaverland, I just wanted to kind of go off something that he said a little bit when he spoke. He said that when he'd make a decision, he'd consider those citizens that voted for him, that were in the area. I really want you guys to consider all your citizens, if you would, when you make this vote. You have people that voted for you, you have people that didn't vote for you. Please take all of them into consideration, regardless how you vote, one way or the other. We'll live with it, we'll go from there, and we'll move on however it is. But consider everybody, if you would, please. And I can just guarantee you one thing, regardless, when it all comes down to the end, Jerry Beaverland would have been the driving force of it one way or the other. So don't worry about him.
I always worry about him. Moving down the line.
Number 103 Brent Circle. I want to say I am for this, and there's a lot of information out there for people that have been saying there's not. I just recently started following it, and I've been able to find anything I need. And a couple of things, just comments that I hear from people within the community. One of them is the density doesn't need to be increased. Well, as we all know, there's a business on Main Street right now trying to stay alive, and they can't. These people are not visiting them. We need the higher density for it here. And also on that, what is this property worth today? Okay, that was asked recently. Well, if I have 5 acres of land and I can build one house on it, it's worth X amount of dollars. If I can build 5 houses on those 5 acres, X amount of dollars. That's what this decision is about tonight, is more of taking that next step for the density. And also with that, all the people that, think that all of a sudden there's gonna be this, it's gonna be built, it's not. Like we've said, there's so many steps that have to be gone through before anything happens. This is one step tonight. That doesn't mean it's gonna be with this developer even, But we need the density downtown or nothing's gonna survive. We're seeing it right now. We have people that are trying to build downtown now, and it's just not working. People aren't going. We need outside people. You need people to work it. You need people to be there. You need, or we're just going to have green grass and that's it, which I'm like too, but parking, okay? Go to Dunedin on a Friday or Saturday night, or Safety Harbor. What do you spend most of your time doing? Looking for a parking place. Sometimes you're parking illegally. I mean, I've had to do it, pulling up on curbs. So all this stuff is something that I think has been planned out, is moving the right direction, so I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead. I appreciate everyone's patience too.
My name is Maria Gould. I live at 436 Lafayette. I was here at the last meeting. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit hoarse. I've been in conference calls all day. But I'm all for the project. And I agree with many of the comments that have been made here. No decision is a decision. Eventually, the other comment that was made, if we don't decide on something, something's going to happen that we have no control of. The proposed plan seems very thorough, very well thought out. I congratulate the city for such a great plan. I haven't lived here for the last 20 years, so I don't know what happened 20 years ago. And I do care, but I care more about what's going to happen here in the future because I intend to stay here. And I intend to invest in Oldsmar. And I live in Oldsmar, and I care. And like the last gentleman said, we should care about everyone's opinion, but we should also not digress this into a questioning of what the city is doing in a manner that's negative. We should remain positive about this. And I do see a little bit of that going on. It bothers me because I come from that kind of environment, hostile environment. So this needs to be something that is participation, just like Ginger. You know, we may not agree. I've known Ginger for a long time, but, and she has some good point. Everyone here has a good point, but something's gonna happen, whether we like it or not, and we need to look for the best features of what can be best for our town, and I'm all for it, okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Next. Mayor? It's going to be interesting. Which mayor speaks the longest?
Oh, we know which one it is. I will be the briefest.
It's not going to be this one. I know that.
I'll be very direct. Jim Rodiker, 1605 Gray Bark Drive. I almost forgot my address. I'm nervous up here. No, I'm kidding. Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Trask, happy birthday, Ann. It's nice to see you all. It's kind of funny. I moved in Pinellas County in 1977, and I built my house in Oldsmar in 1997. And I'm kind of like a senior member now on this CRA project. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of where we've been from my aspect of seeing things and where I think we should go. When I first moved here, at the time, everybody just went to work somewhere else, and when you got home, you pretty much had to leave the city again because we only had a handful of restaurants and there was not many stores. So we were like a transitory community, transitioning community, where nobody worked, played, and stayed here. So back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, the Chamber came up with the slogan, "A great place to live, work, and play." And they actually helped develop the pattern book and our architectural standards for the CRA. So the Chamber was instrumental in the early beginning. But from the inception of those initial plans, we've not deviated from a vibrant mixed-use development that we're looking for, of retail, commercial, and residential. When I first got on the council in 2003, I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? Our biggest meeting at the time was with the CRA regarding horses being allowed to walk through downtown. And I was like, this is absurd. This is our downtown. We're gonna have horses?
I voted for it.
Did you support it? Nice. Wow. I was on the winning end of that.
Sorry, you're losing time. I'm sorry.
But we actually debated that, and fortunately, that didn't come to happen. Another was, I don't know if anybody remembers the Westminster Apartments. The city was in an uproar when we were going to allow that to be developed, and we had no choice. We were legally obligated to have that happen, correct? Yes. If we went against it, we would have been sued significantly and lost. So we happened, and everybody that was against it the community is going to have drugs in it, there's going to be too much crime. They've been a perfect neighbor. There's very little problem there. So with the CRA, one of the biggest meetings that happened that I can recall is the city had a consultant, and the consultant deemed the CRA area a slum. It wasn't worth anything, is what they said. And you should have seen the citizens that came then. How dare you call us a slum, And it unfortunately was. And I've got the definition of what a CRA is, if I can find it. I can't read. I forgot my glasses in the car. But examples of conditions that can support the creation of a CRA include, but are not limited to, the presence of substandard or inadequate structures, a shortage of affordable housing, inadequate infrastructure, insufficient roadways, and inadequate parking. And as Mayor Beaverland said, we still had dirt roads at that time, and there was no parking. So anyway, through the years, in 2008, if the economy didn't tank, I believe the city council that I was the mayor of at the time, we would have passed the development. I think it was a $100 million project, if I'm not mistaken, right, Al? Was that about right? And it included a parking garage and apartments and everything else you're looking at. So this is something that's not just popped up in the last couple of days. This has been going on since at least 1997. And in my opinion, I think it's time for this council to support this, get the density, and let's get this project done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else? Pam? You got your glasses.
Hello. Pamela Settle, 439 Lakeview Drive. I've been up here before. I think you all know what I stand for. I stand for the people. I stand for the people knowing what's going on in their city. It's true. I mean, we need to talk about progress, and we need to talk about moving forward as a city. And someone just mentioned participation. I wrote it down. Participation, yes, that's what we've had happening. So the meeting 2 weeks ago, we had participation from citizens who came because there was a group of other citizens who shared the information about what was going on. They came because other people told them what was happening. The city didn't tell them what was happening. There was no invitation to equally participate in this conversation. We've had good conversation. Last meeting, we had a presentation tonight that people should have seen 5 months ago. So really the issue is about process, it's about transparency, it's about being open with our citizens, it's about being respectful to the people who live in this area and will be impacted. It's great we talk about businesses needing more customers, but 311 apartment buildings isn't going to make or break a restaurant or a store when you have 15,000 people and 65,000 people driving by. It sounds like we need a newspaper, not 300 apartments, to make sure that Oldsmar is seen and has customers coming to take care of our business community. So, the citizens requested this town hall meeting. They wanted it on the front end of the process, not later on down the process. But we've been told no, that we're not going to have this town meeting. And I watched the older residents come 2 weeks ago and say, I just found out about this. I don't like it. I saw parents come and say, I'm really concerned about traffic and safety. And they were told by a combination of the people who were here that they were too late, they were misinformed, they were anti-progress and not in the know. It seems like they were gaslighted into believing that all of this has been going on for decades and that they just simply hadn't been to enough meetings. Well, this particular project walked in the door on February 11th, 2021. There were 4 new proposals, brand new proposals, at a workshop called Economic Development that day. At the conclusion of that meeting, there were no renderings or proposals posted on the website for citizens to see. The video of that meeting has been viewed 86 times. On March 2nd, after one brief discussion with the developer, the council voted to send this apartment proposal to the city manager for negotiations. If you missed that meeting, that one meeting, you're not alone, because only 112 people have seen that video. The next time that I found an agenda item to discuss the downtown development, it was scheduled for a May 18th city council meeting. I attended that meeting because I am curious. I want to know what's going on with this proposal, but that agenda item was removed. At the end of that meeting, I asked Councilmember Saraki what happened, and I was told that the item had been moved to a May 25th workshop. I attended that workshop that was held at the Tampa Armature Works in a restaurant away from these cameras. I was the only citizen there to witness the conversation that happened at that meeting. Citizens couldn't know what was talked about because the minutes were not submitted to the City Council until July 20th, 1 week after the Planning Board meeting. So fellow citizens, if you're out there watching, if you have not done this kind of digging, you indeed did not know the details or the plans surrounding this newly proposed 5-story apartment building that surrounds 850-car parking garage. You were not invited to discuss the increase of the density. You were not told how this plan differs from the 2019 plan. To say this is just about density for density's sake, let me assure you that at the workshop they were holding a handout with Woodfield information, and they were strategizing the density increase. The citizens did come out at the last meeting and they asked important questions. It was disheartening how they were treated. So citizens have signed a petition. They are commenting on Nextdoor. They are talking to neighbors. But this is not how we move forward with radical transformation to this downtown area, which is a CRA. It's different than the land where they built the apartments on Pine. This isn't about apartments. This is about a downtown plan, the future and what that looks like, the vision for this whole downtown area.
Could you wrap it up, please?
I do want to say, I really expected that this council would postpone the proceedings to allow the citizens to be heard before it goes any further. The people who came 2 weeks ago didn't even get an apology for the fact that the city hadn't been proactive to tell them about this. They got lectures and excuses, and I think Oldsmar deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Got 2 more? Good. I know people are getting tired.
Good evening. Sherry Clark, 501 Pine Avenue South. I just want to say happy birthday to Ann. And a real quick thing, I want to thank the city staff, the mayor, the council, all of you, because this is an incredible project that is on all of your shoulders. And I also want to say how discouraged I am at some of the backlash, I would call it. I love that people are coming up and expressing their opinions. Everybody's opinion counts. That's what makes our city so great. I'm really, really upset with some of the backlash that you are getting, some of the accusations that are being made. I do not agree, and I do not respect it. I respect all of you, and I respect that you will take all of your citizens in consideration when you make the vote. I want to state that I am for it. I am for voting yes, and I hope you'll consider my opinion. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. The last man standing.
This is entirely unfair. Make me last. My name is John Buse, 150 State Street East.
Sat in the last chair in the back.
I'm struggling with where to start. I'm a 29-year resident of the town. I've had my business here for 18 years. I built it on State Street. I am a developer, a designer, professional by trade. I've spent countless hundreds of hours working with the city on various workshops and hearings and public events. And after hearing the past couple weeks, I don't think we could come to an agreement if we had 79 more public hearings about this project. Because I've been to, I think, every single one, if not certainly the majority of them, and they all revolve around the same thing. What do we want as a city? And we've collected this input through countless events, all public, all publicized, and if you weren't paying attention, you would have missed them. But if you were involved in your city, you couldn't have missed them. It's been at the library, it's been at City Hall, it's been Armature Works, you name it, it's been everywhere, but they're always available for you to see. So having said that, I think having 79 more public hearings on this will move us no further than we are today. The other thing that's missing in these conversations is that Woodfield, or name your developer, is doing exactly what we asked them to do. And most of you that I'm looking at were on the council through various conversations when you said what you wanted as well. Now, unfortunately, we go back so far that some of these residents were here and some weren't. So we're going to always have that up against where we can't possibly treat everyone. And if you wait 5 more years, you'd have 5 more sets of new people in town. So I just want to point out and remind everyone that what you saw today is by no means what's going to be built. I am frightened if this keeps moving forward as we've asked of how we're going to get to the finish line. My responsibility that I've taken on as a public citizen and free of charge, I don't have any interest in this project, nor have I ever, nor do I want any interest. Besides, I want to make sure that the architecture and the community building of this project is the highest caliber that I can possibly force without any authority, because I have none. But I certainly can offer my opinions and my experience, and that is what I've done with the Woodfield project. Ironically, the density, the park, the mixed use, the parking garage, all of those items, every single one of those items is a result of public input. The plan that I created on my own by myself, it looks nothing like what you see today, because that was just a starting point we did 20 years ago. It has evolved and evolved and evolved based on public input, and lots of it. So I just would like to implore that you please remember that this is what we asked for. Unfortunately, we do have quite a bit of citizens that disagree with what we're presenting, but we're still a long way from the finish line. And if we can't support this project now as it stands now with this, I'm afraid of what will happen later on when we come to the hard part, which is, to me, the architecture in the final building. But the one you saw that Woodfield's done, whether Woodfield's built or not, is literally exactly what we said, and they revised it several times based on the fact they missed some of the things that we put on our original plan. So they've constantly come back to revise it and revise it at economic peril to them. The things that we've asked for cost money. They don't save them any money. So unfortunately, we're at a point now where we have to make a decision, and I hope you will agree that this is what you said you want, both the ones that are in council now and the ones that have spoken for this project. I've worked really hard on this, and I'll continue to work hard on it, whatever the result is. My goal doesn't change, and that is to make sure that the project is successful, whatever is there. Just remind you what you guys see today is what you asked for. And this, by the way, when I say you, I'm referring to community, citizens, council. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, the chair will close the public hearing. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Discussion. Maker of the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. If you'll give me just a moment, I've taken a lot of notes here from some of the citizens open forum, the public hearing here. And I heard actually a lot of really good ideas of different ways that we can continue to communicate better with our residents. I really appreciated some of the ideas for text messaging. I'm glad we have your number. And I think the city has done a better job recently of putting some more information out there. I really appreciate the downtownoldsmar.com website, which provided a lot of answers to questions that had been circulating online. as well as the presentation tonight that was updated to address some of those questions as well. It is important to me, very, very important to me, that the public understands what is happening at each meeting, and especially at this meeting. I think there was a definite misunderstanding at the last meeting as to what was actually happening. And I still think that persists a little bit tonight. I brought with me my little cheat sheet, the Oldsmar Land Development Code, section 14.7. This is our development agreement process, just on a bigger font, because I can't see the teeny font, and I can't bring that book with me everywhere like Tom does. But it's actually steps 1 through 23. And the step that we're on is step 4. To be clear, there is no contract signed with this developer, Woodfield. We don't have a development agreement with them. I don't believe we will have a development agreement with anyone if we don't make a change to the framework of our downtown area. So I'm a lawyer, as you all know, and it's important to me that we follow the process that has been put in place. I didn't put this in place, by the way. Councils, many, many before me, put this development agreement process in place. It is very important to me and to Tom Trask, our city attorney, who actually practices in this area, that we follow this procedure. And I think there has been a lot of conflating the density change and a vote on increasing the density with approving the concept plan that was submitted by Woodfield in the letter agreement from November 3rd, the December 1st agreement, December 1st meeting, the January 1st meeting, and the February 11th meeting when the Woodfield proposal was discussed. I have, as I mentioned to our city staff, lots of questions. When we get that final development agreement, I have questions about traffic. I have questions about water. I have lots of questions that will be answered in that process. Here's the problem, though. If we don't make the legal framework, we'll never get the answers to those questions because it's not feasible. Now, I'm not saying that this is the, perfect development that I want. I have a lot of questions about it. But if we don't change the framework for a potential development, as we've seen over many, many years, we can't support any of those prior proposals. All those ones that were in Tatiana's presentation would have required a density change. And our process is what we're following. I believe it has not changed in the past 20 years. I believe we have continued to follow that same process. For example, the University of South Florida plan, I wanted to bring up, because there were some great presentations by Ginger. She brought up a bunch of different studies. We had USF come in here, and they gave us mixed use plan that potentially was feasible. Stantec came in later, refined it a little bit to make it actually feasible, and then we gave it to CBRE, if you remember. This was before I was on council, but we gave it to CBRE, the largest real estate marketing company in the United States. And we took that design that we all loved, I loved it as well, and they sent it out to 4,000 investors and developers for, I think the agreement was for a year, exclusivity for them to try to market it for a year. And what did we get? We got zero, a goose egg, nothing. This is not a silver bullet solution. What I'm saying is there's a reason that the framework has not favored any potential development. And I view this as a change to that framework. A couple other things, I just wanted to point out some issues. I do believe that we have a lot of little things working together, and vertically integrated mixed use does make sense for this area. I wanted to also thank Tatiana for providing the explanation that this particular density intensity bonus is for a very specific type of development, which is vertically integrated mixed use in a single building within the TCCR on property that is under a development agreement with the city, which limits it down very small to this potential area, this potential downtown that we can have. I would love to pass a sales tax. Would you love a sales tax? I mean, if the city of Oldsmar could pass a sales tax, that would be awesome, but we cannot. The city is not vested with taxing power by the Florida legislature, so that's not something that we can do. We can, as Mayor Beaverland alluded to, we can make good investments, which the city has done over the years. The city has made wonderful investments in property, and I believe that this property was always intended to be a downtown, not to be a park. And I do believe I will look at them again, but I believe all of those prior proposals were all mixed use. There weren't any that were for a park for this area. There weren't, the USF students came in and they, proposed on Park Boulevard, a linear park for that area because that's an appropriate use for the TCCN and moving outward as we buffer away from the TCCR downtown area. And that's important to me because, they were considering things like I am considering right now, which are those residents on Lee and Washington and Dartmouth and Buckingham, like all of those streets in that downtown area. And I'm looking up and I'm seeing, okay, well, we have an opportunity to create a buffer to Tampa Road because that's what the TCCR is for. It is a buffer to the CRA downtown uses as it expands away from the downtown. That's what TCCR, TCCN, and then it backs out and less intense uses, as Tatiana showed in that presentation, with the parks on one side and then developing all the way down to an urban center, which we don't have. But this is our most dense area. It was designed for the most dense area. It was always designed to be that way. We've said no to a lot of developers over the years. We do have, in my opinion, and maybe in the opinion of a lot of developers who got rejected, extremely high standards. I would love to give you the web link. I can't off the top of my head for our Tampa Road corridor requirements, which this would have to comply with, which are extremely strict architecturally and extremely narrowly tailored to make sure that any potential development, which again, we're not voting on tonight, meets this criteria of the look and the feel of our area. I loved the idea of shaded walk areas, art projects. I think that for this particular plan, Councilmember Linda Norris might kill us if we don't include a public art element. And I know that's already been discussed. That's very important to me because this is a place where I want to be able to walk from Lafayette, as Mayor Beaverland mentioned, down State Street and all the way down to a downtown that maybe we can block off with bollards and have festivals and have an enjoyable area. Because as was mentioned, this isn't just for the downtown, this is for all of Oldsmar. It's important to me that we consider, as was mentioned, both the impact to the downtown area, the impact to others, but also the benefit to the downtown area and the benefit to others. I'll tell you, I would love to see a beautiful downtown that raises the property values for all of the homes in the surrounding downtown area. The CRA, that's why it became a CRA, because it needed this boost. It needed a downtown, a walkable area. I tell you, I would love to have a Trader Joe's. When we talked about this recently, I talked about this to Gabby. I think she submitted to Trader Joe's 4 times. God bless her. She, and that would be fantastic. But a lot of people might not realize that to have a Trader Joe's or similar retail establishments, you have to meet certain criteria. They won't even consider a site plan. So Trader Joe's, for example, requires a median income of $100,000 or more per household because they need that to support it. And so, I love ideas, but I also love informed ideas more. I believe that our city staff has done an excellent job of balancing the most intensity and density, which the countywide rules allow, and what we have right now. And we actually are meeting in the middle. A lot of people talked about, meeting in the middle, and I don't really want to go at this time. I don't think there's a need at this time to go to the maximum countywide allowable rules for our activity center. I think it does make sense to take a stepped approach, which we have done for density intensity. Last December at the council meeting, we had a potential hotel development before they backed out due to COVID. And there was a resolution on that agenda to increase the density for transient accommodations from 80 to 101 units for a potential hotel. It was approved by all of us, every one of us sitting up here, except for Steve. But, you know, and there wasn't this kind of issue that we're having with the misinformation out there. I very much dispute the term reckless and dangerous. This agreement, or this development agreement process is extremely onerous and very difficult to navigate for developers, for our city staff, and it's supposed to be. Government, I don't know if anybody knows, but government goes slow. It's meant to go slow so that we have the opportunity for public input and so that everything is transparent. Like I mentioned, we are on step 4 of this. And so there are many opportunities to do exactly what I want and what I've heard a lot of our citizens want, which is to have, you know, town hall meetings to discuss, you know, what do you want to see there? I've got some ideas for things I don't want to see there, you know, more medical space. No, I don't want that. I don't want to bring my kid downtown to a medical office. I want to bring him to something cool, a park that has, you know, something that's interesting, maybe a fountain. Yes, I said it. You heard it here, Mayor. I said maybe a fountain. I still like the idea of the fountain that you can walk through, not the one you can watch, but okay, I'm
Blast the kids up in the air.
I'm willing to compromise. But, you know, I do live less than a mile from this area, and I am a parent, you know, and I understand, you know, that there is room in our schools, there's room in our city for more people, for more families. We are on the front end of this process. Step 4 is definitely nowhere near step 23. And the public, y'all, I'm so glad you came out tonight. I'm glad you came to the prior meeting. I'm glad you're emailing me and calling me. It's fantastic. I've never heard from so many people before. This is wonderful to get everyone's involvement because there's going to be a lot more opportunities for involvement. We've literally only barely just begun this process. This is great to have you here, to hear your opinions on both sides. I appreciate all of you taking the time out of your night. I know it's been a long night so far. I know we still have a lot left to do. But, you know, I want to be clear on a little bit of the timeline. You know, November 3rd was when we received the letter of intent from Woodfield, and December was when we had the potential density increase. Remember, for the hotel, that was the night of the Christmas tree lighting. And then we all came back over here. At the January 1st meeting, the Woodfield proposal, along with the prior proposals from DFMAR, Simone, Commonwealth, and Prime were discussed. Pam, you were there. You spoke at that meeting. And ultimately, the city manager reported that Commonwealth, the second rank, was no longer interested after some very honestly shady dealings with Simone that I voted twice alone to back out of because things weren't moving along and we weren't getting where we wanted to be. And make no mistake, I will do the same thing again if we're not getting to where we need to be. So ultimately, you know, Commonwealth was no longer interested. Prime still wanted us to consider their proposal. So remember, February 11th, we had the work session. Steve was there. Pam, you were there. It was before we had the election and everything. John, you were there with the library. He's still awake. The library property proposal. And, you know, we looked at Prime again. You know, I don't really want to move City Hall, but, you know, that was on the table. We had a great presentation from the Rushmore Hughes group. And I remember Woodfield coming and showing us some of their proposals. So consideration of that proposal and the concept plan submitted by Prime were back on the agenda March 2nd, 2021. I went back and watched the YouTube. It was the same PowerPoint presentation that I brought to the last meeting. I think, Dan, you brought it too, the big presentation. And no comments were made about the proposal. Pam, you were there. That night, and we rejected Prime that night because nobody wanted to move City Hall and consider some of these other things. We were more interested in building the walkable downtown with the vertically integrated mixed use, which was what Woodfield had proposed. So March 16th, it came up again. And council actually received helpful input from citizens regarding the park area on the city hall side. That's when John added some, just on his own time, pro bono, as we call it in the legal world. He submitted some proposals to kind of edge out a little more park area. I believe you sought some input on social media as well. And Pam, you were there. We talked about the Leisure Services Advisory Board, and the council discussed the setback for the power lines. And we all kind of agreed that additional retail space for our residents was necessary for them to enjoy. And actually, if you go back and watch it, which I did because I'm an insane person, density was discussed then as well. So this was always something that we contemplated. So at the council meeting on April 20th, we scheduled the annual planning meeting at Armature Works. And I recall mentioning that I was actually the one, Pam, who told you about, remember we were standing in the back and told you about coming to Armature Works. And we did have a review at the Armature Works session at the council planning conference, which is really an opportunity for our city staff to kind of give us a state of the union on all the council priorities. One of the council priorities is building out the Oldsmar Sports Complex. One of them is also building it downtown. So we got updates on all those things. And some people mentioned that tonight. And we discussed the timeline of items that would be required, the legal documents and the development agreement. And, you know, I wanted to note this. This is a little self-serving, but at that meeting, the minutes reflect, Gannon stated council wanted to make sure there is opportunity for public input. So the first meeting in July was canceled due to Elsa, and I think we were all here at the last meeting.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I know, I'm wrapping it up. I'm wrapping it up, I know.
right ahead.
I've spoken to many citizens in the last few weeks. Hey, I am in his seat, you know.
I was going to say that, but I thought,
It's difficult to balance everyone's desires. I do, though, ultimately come down on the side of continuing the conversation. I believe that this is a very limited change in order to entertain not only the Woodfield proposal, but any proposal that includes mixed use, vertically integrated development, which has always been considered by this council and every council before it when we made the CRA. I do want to have town hall meetings, charrettes, whatever you want to call them. And I will sit here all night. We can have them over in Tico Hall. If it's COVID, we'll put everybody on Zoom. Whatever you want to do, I'm here for it. And I want to hear from all of you, and I appreciate it. But I do want to continue this conversation. I want to change the density. I want to see what Woodfield comes with, and I want to see what anybody else comes with, because that's part of this process too. Moving on, you've heard my statements. I apologize for taking a long time, but it's very important to me that I addressed some of the comments, and I wanted to make sure that the people who made them know that they were heard. It's very important to me. Thank you all. Thank you, Council, for indulging me.
That's right. Nice job. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to piggyback a little bit as far as the timeline goes relative to the sequencing of this density change taking place. As it stands right now, or I guess kind of the last update prior to us losing a meeting, with all the other votes that have to take place, this wouldn't go into effect until, at that time, about May of next year, but I presume now it's probably June, if not maybe July. I don't know exactly how that'll all shake out. So it's by no means going to happen overnight in terms of strictly the density change, and it is my understanding that this developer that has a proposal under consideration right now probably won't do any more work until that change takes effect, which means there's probably a lot of other time that has to surpass prior to us seeing a proposal, and thus then any shovels being sank into the ground. I think based on how a vote could potentially go tonight, it could, in effect, kill the plan as it currently stands, and there wouldn't be any further discussion, there wouldn't be any investigation of traffic, any of these other impacts. It would just go away, like many of the other plans have gone. So I think that's something to keep in mind moving forward. as Councilmember Gannon mentioned, there are still questions that need to be answered surrounding it, but we aren't here to have those questions asked or answered tonight. So we will save that for another time. And finally, I think some of what has been brought up and is a kind of common theme amongst everybody that is in favor of something happening is that we need a catalyst. I don't think anybody in here probably would disagree with that. What that catalyst is, we don't entirely know. But everybody, I think, would probably agree that that needs to happen. Another thing that I've been hearing and reading through various emails we've gotten or through social media, which I fully agree, and it's also not necessarily what we're voting on tonight, is, we're talking about downtown, and the district that we're considering this density increase for represents a fair part of it. There's obviously the other side of State Street that's not part of this density increase. And I think we still kind of lack an overall vision of what we want to see the whole downtown to be, not just one district. We've got more to think about. So that's something I'd like the council to keep in mind moving forward, is how we can start to tackle that as well, because there are some questions that need to be answered there. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that's important. It's definitely what I'm hearing from people. It's what I feel too. That project is one portion of what could be a lot more for our city. And that's what I think ultimately everybody's really going to appreciate from the work that gets done now to 5 or 10 years down the road. That's where we're really going to see the fruits of our labor. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. First of all, I want to touch on the presentation that the city presented tonight. I appreciate the updates on the water situation of the city and the sewer plant situation. One suggestion I would like, if possible, before the council meeting, if we could get those updates. So I like to educate myself and read a little bit before the meeting. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. And then I wanted to mention something that Jim Roniker, he's not here, I guess he left. He mentioned back in '97, I built my home the same time that Jim built his. And he's right, there was nothing to do here. I used to drive all the way to Largo. It took me 45 minutes to drive there and 45 minutes home. There's no place to eat here. The only place we had was Cody's, and that was in Hillsborough County. There was nothing here. So I understand that we need a development. And one thing, Ron, in 2009, when Jim Roniker awarded me the council manager award, I told him at that meeting that my goal was to ride my bike to work. I was sick and tired of driving to Largo for 45 minutes. I made that goal come true. I ride my bike to work every day. And now I live, work right here in the city. Other thing I wanted to bring up was Mayor Beavis brought up the part about my presentation when I explained last meeting. And Doug, you're right. The city-owned property is what I would like to see developed. I don't like the idea of the other property that is publicly owned, because I am a forward thinker. I like to see it in the future, and I see that not this council, maybe a different council, that might change. That density change might change those properties, and that's what I'm concerned about. Does that answer your question? All right. I'm pro downtown. I want a downtown. I want a downtown here in Oldsmar. I really do. I want to see something built here. I was here when the college did their presentation. So I want to see a downtown. To the council, I want to see a downtown. I want you guys to know that. I just don't like the idea of the density change outside of the city-owned property. And I want to talk about the people now. What I heard today is the people want to have a town hall meeting. I don't know why we just can't have a town hall meeting. I think we should have maybe a work session on this. We should invite the people, let them speak in a town hall meeting environment, bring their concerns, and maybe the city do another presentation. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's important for the people. The last thing I have, Mayor, is Andrew brought it up, the timeline. Wasn't aware of that timeline. You said May or maybe June? If this passes, if this public hearing passes right now, let's say it passes. Hypothetically, let's say it passes. What's the next step, Tom? When is the second public hearing? What happens next?
It goes to the county for consideration, and then it comes back to the city council.
And how long will that take?
Doesn't it also go to the state as
You want to
well?
go ahead and talk about it?
Yeah, that's a good question that you should.
Well, I think I think that a lot of the people that were talking tonight, I think they need to know that.
Right, so the next stop for this, because it's a change in the comprehensive plan, is that it goes to the Planners Advisory Council for Forward Pinellas for the committee, then Forward Pinellas, then the BOCC, and then it has to go through the state. So it goes to state DEO, and they open it for comment period at that point. And then after we get approved through all that, it comes back here for the second reading.
And we don't know how long that.
We really don't know. We're looking at expedited reviews. We're looking at maybe running to DEO concurrently with the Forward Pinellas and the BOCC process. We just don't know at this point.
Okay, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And then last, it's just a suggestion to the council, just since she mentioned that, Felicia just mentioned it might take some time, we might want to consider that. Put it on a tentative agenda, maybe one meeting, we can talk about it, but maybe have a town meeting with the people. Let them talk, let the city do a presentation so everyone understands this density. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Graber.
Thank you, Mayor. Katie, did you need any of my time?
You're new.
Little levity, trust me, I'm aware of that. I think everybody's points have been made. I don't think there was any positions that had changed from 2 weeks ago till now. I've always understood that the density question was going to be presented, if I was elected to council, was going to be one of the first things. It was actually one of the first things I asked Felicia about, because I was on the Forward Pinellas Citizens Advisory Committee and I needed to understand it because it was on one of our agendas, and had I been asked about it, I needed to know what was going on. So as I was learning to do this job, and after I was elected, I was surprised by the pushback I was getting about the density, and tried my best to explain it all the way through. However, what we're voting on tonight is the ordinance that Tom drafted, and then it's going to go through more processes. So what I've tried to do, even though everybody's trying to get to the finish line, is just focus on the vote as to the density. Other than that, Mayor, and in the interest of time, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, I do have a few items. I'm going to try to condense them down as I check off some of the points that have been made. There is a couple things before we get to really the discussion at hand, just some comments that I heard tonight that I think it's worth commenting on for clarity's sake, okay? And I appreciate everyone coming out. I wasn't very surprised by what I heard tonight. I think we got a good flavor of feedback at the last meeting. I see it continuing. I appreciate all of those who come and they speak and they talk to their neighbor and their council in a way that is constructive. We want to get to the end game that we all feel good about. I want to explain a couple things because I've heard it from a couple people now, and that is the process on which we go through on the very front end, right? On city-owned land. On city-owned land, what we do is anybody can send a letter to say, or they normally make a phone call and say, hey, I know the city owns this land. Is there, I have an appetite to do this with it or that with it. And generally what we say, we try to give them a little bit of information or, get more questions, whatever the case might be. And then we tell them, so that we as council members step out of it, we tell them, what you need to do is you need to send a letter to the city manager and express your interest in that land. It's a letter of interest. So if you've heard that term used, that is the very beginning point of communications. It means someone's serious enough to send something, and we encourage them, send some kind of, rough draft of a concept plan or something along that lines so that it provides more information. The city manager, and this is really intended as a check and balance, it goes directly to the city manager. The city manager then brings it, if we don't have a signed agreement with someone, this process could go on to the day before we have a signed agreement with someone, okay? So the city manager takes that letter of interest, comes to the council, shows us it's an agenda item, it's put out with our advertised agenda, and it's the very beginning where we look at it and we say, yeah, I'd be interested in that. That looks good. It might be something of interest. Go negotiate details on what that would look like. That does not say we're agreeing to it, because the odds are he's not going to have the information of what it really is yet, like cost, density, what's being proposed, I mean, all that, that's the process. So when you hear that's what's happened, that's how the ball gets rolling. And it's not really any different than any other city. You have to start somewhere. So he might be discussing, and I'll use Woodfield as an example, and in the meantime, someone else pops up and says, hey, I'm interested in that same land. Once again, they send a letter of interest, a concept. Why? Because we have no deal with Woodfield. We don't have a deal with anybody. And this is where we, for lack of a better word, we keep the shopping of the city-owned property open and right up until the last minute, so that, frankly, we hope there's more, so it creates leverage, right? I will adamantly disagree with those who said, like, we jumped on the first proposal. We purposely killed proposals because they were not good ones. I mean, one was horrible financially.
Yes.
One was nowhere near what we had come up with in the concept plan. And for a point of reference, when you hear someone talk about the 2019, they really like that plan that the city did, that kind of makes me proud, because it was this council that we got together and made that plan. We went through, we had workshops, we cut out and that information came from people saying, I want some mixed use. Well, I don't know that they use the term mixed use. Everybody was worried about parking, right? Why? Because the people who live right here, if we don't have good parking here, it is not fair. Because people will go illegally park in front of their houses.
Yeah.
We have to have good parking if we're going to have a downtown. Otherwise, it's a mistake, all right? And so I digress. So that is the process. So when you hear someone say, well, the city council told the city manager, yeah, go negotiate, that's what that term is intended to explain. It's very early, we don't have a deal, they're not a partner, and frankly, we might say they look like a good partner. Why? Because we hear feedback that they're being easier to deal with. When they don't show up to a meeting and you have to hand them a pencil, which was happened with one of the people, right? Seriously.
True.
These are the crazy things that we've been dealing with and going through. So anyhow, that's the process. And I'm going to say this, I will always agree that we can communicate what's going on here better. I just got to tell you, we do everything we possibly can think of, and we've gotten some good input. I think that we've stepped up our game. I love that the website, the update to it, because you go to that website, the information's accurate. Somebody didn't make a mistake on it. Somebody didn't confuse where somebody, put a post and change the intent of what was really said, which might not even be the intent of what the person posting meant, but somebody doesn't know, so now it changes and you log on and see the last post. Go to the city website. Now that we have it, put a question in, and what they're doing with that input, they are adding to the frequently asked questions. Accurate, okay? That's a good step in my opinion, but I promise you, we're going to keep working at it to do more and more. I love the fact that a lot of people out here, and there's a lot of people, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to offend anybody, I'm just being brutally honest, okay? Because I've been at this the longest out of anybody up here.
Except for Al.
And Tom.
Here's the thing. There's a lot of people I see in this room who've been very active lately. I didn't know 2 years ago. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, right? But the reason they don't know all these things because they weren't that active 2 years ago. They know them now. They're showing up. So guess what? We've got a long road ahead of us to ever have a downtown. Now everyone's engaged. So maybe it was a little bloody getting here, but we're here. And you know, I think that's important, right? So here's what I would say. I think it's a mistake to have a quote unquote, what was the term you used? You think we should have agenda item and go. The problem with when we have these types of meetings for a council member, right, is it's not a format that a citizen can ask a question and get an answer, right? So for us, I die up here half the time because I get nudged from the city attorney like, this is not the way this meeting's supposed to work, Mayor. And so what I think when we have a actual proposal for a development agreement, right? I mean, where we have something that has financial terms in it, conditions, all the details before it gets voted on by the council, that we have an open house, where we have boards set up, where we invite people, we have stations where people can ask questions with somebody who can respond, who knows the facts.
Staff, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and so that I think becomes more productive. I will tell you, I'm not in favor of starting over because we've done that year after year. And these elements, while everyone might not like the way they're laid out, but they're the same elements, right? That 2019 plan that people liked, that we did, let me tell you what they came back with. And Woodfield was the only one who came back with it. The others did not. They came back with these boxes and this weird stuff, and yeah, there was some pretty gardens and things like that. It was not a downtown, okay? And we shot all of those down because it wasn't what people wanted, right? If you look at their development plan, and I don't know that I don't know that I'm going to support it. I don't know what the financial terms are yet. I mean, we're like putting the cart before the horse right now. But that plan in 2019 had a 5-story parking garage. That was in that plan that people have commented on that they like. We have to have a 5-story parking garage. We need parking. Otherwise, we have to go to surface parking, and that's not a big enough piece of property to accommodate it and have anything left over for a building or a shop or a restaurant. We've got to go up, okay? And we originally in that plan, we had it partially wrapped with commercial, okay? But everybody we got feedback from, not just Woodfield, said, don't put more commercial in a brand new downtown without any density. It's going to be a ghost yard, a graveyard. And so they came back with that. We wanted a hotel with a boutique hotel with a rooftop bar, right? Why? Because we don't have that product in Oldsmar. We don't have a boutique hotel here. You talk to the business community, talk to your neighbors who have family coming in, they want to put them in somewhere maybe a little nicer than what we have available. We don't have it here. Like, you got to send them somewhere else. And the rooftop bar, why is the rooftop bar? The rooftop bar / restaurant? Because that's a local amenity. It's something that if you never stayed at that hotel, you could still go with your friends or your family. And so those amenities and some of the smaller 2-story shops that were in that 2019 plan, what they did is they put them all together. And that's when they came up with this new style that, frankly, we need. So, not to get on the soapbox, but I wanted to answer some of those things because I think it's important. I love all the discussion. You know, I think it's good. I'm glad everyone's here now. So can we move on with that? Say everyone's here? I mean, you know, let's have the discussion. We'll get something good. But there's going to be compromise in it, or it's not going to get done. I promise you. And let's talk about what is on the agenda, and that is increasing density. Now, personally, to Councilmember Siraki's concern, which I appreciate his concern, but there's zero chance, I think, that Beechwood is going to get torn down and they're going to put mixed use there. But even if they did, you're forgetting it requires a development agreement. So there is a process that has to be gone through for that to happen. We don't own that property. And so one of the things that I think is kind of getting missed here, I hope not, as it relates to having a plan for City Hall or for downtown. This property next to City Hall, that's not downtown. That is not the downtown. It is the anchor of one end of what is envisioned, which has always been envisioned, of the downtown area. That walkable stretch of State Street up to the Galleria and around the corner, that has always been envisioned as what there would ultimately be a walkable downtown. We're not trying to do it all in one night. That's just impossible. You know what? We don't even own that other land. You know, that's when you get in the patterns books and some of the design elements. Those properties, guess what? They're going to end up getting purchased by someone who wants to develop them. And they're going to have to present it in such a way, because they have to provide a development agreement that matches the build out. On the far end, I think everyone knows we're talking about putting some entertainment element on the other side of what would be the walkable downtown. Potential for a black box theater, right? And so there are other elements that are already filling in privately that people want to do. So that's the downtown. Here, density-wise, there are some things that we got to remember, and that is, you know, as it's been well mentioned, what we've built here in the past on State Street, retail, it's all failed. It has all failed. The 60,000 people on Tampa Road has not helped it. It just hasn't. I worry about the development that's over there with the tap house. I don't know how many times you go by. I always look in whenever I go by to see cars because I worry about them. Density, we need density. We have to have density to make this work. We're not a safety harbor or Dunedin where we're redeveloping a stretch of property that was already there. They have a main street that their traffic goes down Main Street, ours goes down Tampa Road. And so we've got the Galleria down there. I think it's a beautiful building. It has some residential. It has nowhere near enough. And stuff has died there. If you want to think about, well, what if we reconfigured the property next door to try to capture more of Tampa Road's traffic? First off, it would really put a huge hole in the concept of a downtown because it'd be facing Tampa Road. But let's say you made an opening there. First off, I don't think FDOT will allow us to do it. I'd be shocked. But look next door at the shopping center next door. They've got some good businesses in there, and yet that shopping center has struggled. There have had businesses come and go, and they were good businesses, run by good operators. The out parcel there, I don't know, I think in the last 10 years, it's been vacant more than it's had an occupant in it. The 60,000 on Tampa Road is not going to help build a downtown. Maybe if we have some entertainment feature, like a fountain, that people see when they're going by, maybe that makes it, you know, where people notice that. We've had 7 attempts at this, maybe 8 if you count the CBRE effort that Councilmember Gannon mentioned earlier. And I'm going to put them in 2 buckets because this is the way it's always worked, right? We've had the one approach where we're going to do it ourselves. We as a city said we're going to do it ourselves. I'm going to tell you the truth. I was in that camp. I was in that camp, especially after the CBRE experience, because I was around when 4,000 people said, we're not interested. And I'm like, well, you know what? We're building a downtown ourselves, okay? Here's the other type of project where we've had master developers step in and say, we'll take the risk. See, the difference between the two that I haven't heard anybody really talk about is the economics for our city, for our taxpayers. When you do it yourself, here's the difference. That infrastructure that you have to put in order to parcel out and fill it on your own, or even have a leasing agent, or whatever you want to call it, we have to pay for all that. The parking structure that I am telling you, we don't have a parking structure, we should not have a downtown. We shouldn't, because it's really going to screw over the people who live right over here. That's a mistake. So we have to pay for the parking structure. Now, we've always said, well, we maybe have to pay for the parking structure. Al and I had these arguments all the time. Could we afford a bond issuance? And the city's doing pretty well, but, you know, it was somewhere around $12 million, and that was a plain parking garage not being wrapped. Ugly. And so now we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to pay for all the parking garage. We're going to pay for all the infrastructure. We're taking on a lot of risk as taxpayers to do that. That's a mistake. It is a mistake for us to do that. That's my opinion. In all of the developments where the master developer came in, almost all of them would have required this density change. This density change is needed because this property is zoned wrong. It is not zoned properly. It should have much higher density so that we can, A, get people living, working, and playing here, B, so that we don't take huge, enormous risk for the taxpayers, and C, and yes, I'm a money guy, I'm gonna say it, because if we do it, it never goes on the tax rolls. If we sell it with all these conditions, this probably would be the single most expensive development in the city and would generate a lot of tax dollars for all the rest of us that we wouldn't have to. So I just think this property has been zoned wrong. I think it's the reason why it's failed every time. That's my opinion. I'm not going to get into arguing this looks prettier this way or that way. I'm a horrible person to ask that question, okay? Because I'm going to promise you every time we have a concept, there's going to be a group of people who love it. There's going to be a group of people who hate it, right? And so my opinion on that has always been, not without input, but maybe the developer who actually does this for a living should trust him a little bit, all right, on what it should look like. So back to the density, I honestly think that we have to change the zoning on this property. I think it's been our problem, our Achilles heel, unless we want to take on all the risk and do it ourselves, which I think, knowing all the economics to it probably better than most, I think is a huge mistake to make for our taxpayers. Any other comments? Sensing you're ready to vote, roll call.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
No.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2021-25, amending the comprehensive plan, passes with 4 votes for and 1 against, Saraki dissenting.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item number 10. This is a public hearing for the first reading of ordinance 2021-26, amending the Town Center Development Code and the Architectural Design Pattern Book. I'll read that ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2021-26, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the Town Center Development Code, amending Section 2.1 to add definitions for density intensity averaging and vertically integrated mixed-use development, amending Section 3.7.1, providing that mixed-use densities may be permitted up to 65 units per acre, subject to the mixed-use bonus area standards of Section 3.7.5. Amending Section 3.7.2 to provide that transient accommodations may be permitted up to 150 units per acre, subject to the mixed-use bonus area standards of Section 3.7.5. Amending Section 3.7.5 to revise the maximum floor area ratio and to allow for mixed-use developments as well as density-intensity averaging, and providing for mixed-use bonus area. Amending Appendix A, Architectural and Design Pattern Book, to provide that density and intensity bonuses are available for vertically integrated mixed-use developments subject to the mixed-use bonus area standards of Section 3.7.5 of the Town Center Development Code, and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. That was the first reading of Ordinance 2021-26 by title only.
Thank you, City Manager.
No, sir, no staff presentation, no comments.
No presentation, all right. I will open the public forum at this time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing there is not, I will go ahead and close the forum. Where am I at here? At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Nothing in addition.
Did.
I would guess not. Right. All right. Sensing you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
No.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2021-26 passes with 4 votes for and 1 against, Saraki dissenting.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the community minute, and it's the birthday girl.
Okay, so there's nobody here to hear me.
There's thousands at home watching.
Oh, I see. All right. Financial Sustainability Series. Save the date, Thursday, September 16th from 6 to 7, virtual presentation on Fraud Watch Basics. Learn how to spot fraud before it spots you. Register at sustainableoldsmar.com. And then holiday closures. City facilities, offices, and library will be closed on Monday, September 6th in observance of the Labor Day holiday. Normal business will resume on Tuesday, September 7th, and we'll be coming back with a bang. The city will host an opening reception on Tuesday, September 7th, 5 to 7 at City Hall for the Women Who Work art exhibit on display through November 5th, followed by a council meeting and Mayor Seidel's birthday.
Wow, snuck it in.
You got that in there, birthday girl. All right. All right, I see what you did. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of additional new agenda items. We have one item, item 12. The chair will entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Since you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. We have nothing under awards and recognition or community redevelopment agency. The next item is a consent docket, which will be announced by our city clerk, Ann Nixon.
Item number 1, accept resignation of Aaron Pelton from the Code Enforcement Board. Item number 2, approve payment to legal counsel for June 2021 legal services. Item number 3, approve payment to legal counsel for July 2021 legal services. And item number 4, approve minutes of the July 2021 council meeting.
Is there anybody who wishes to pull anything from the consent docket?
I do, number 1.
Number 1? Yep. Anybody else? Okay, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve items number 2, 3, and 4. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Discussion? Or wait, motion second?
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Since you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Vice Mayor?
Yes, I just wanted to briefly give a thank you to Erin for her service as a former fellow board member of the Code Enforcement Board. I know she got a really great new job and had to expeditiously move to California. So
Oh, wow.
Wow.
that is her reason for having to resign. She's no longer here.
Well,
so
we wish
thanks
her
again,
well.
Erin. Yep, to her
Many
and Tom and the
thanks.
kids.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I saw the email during my review on Sunday morning at about 11:30 or so, and I didn't know Erin and her family and Tom had moved yet, or I'd seen where they were going. So I texted and said, "Oh, you're moving? Well, thank you for your service. You know, it was great getting to know you." Blah blah blah. And realized it was 8:30 in the morning where she was on Sunday. So she said thank you, and it went off without a hitch. But I just wanted to make sure. Erin was great serving on the board.
guy.
So.
All right. The chair will entertain a motion to accept item 1.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Since you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, City of Oldsmar. We have no items, and we're back to our city attorney for public hearing number 5.
Thank you. This is a public
Item
hearing.
number 5.
Public hearing for the second reading of ordinance 2021-21. I'll read that long title. Ordinance 2021-21, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending Chapter 42, Parks and Recreation of the Code of Ordinances to replace the terms parks and recreation with leisure services and replace the word his with the phrase his, her throughout Chapter 42. Add definitions for drone model aircraft, park roads, and special event. Add type of motor to vehicle definition. Provide authority to the city manager or designee for any recreational park transportation service vehicle. Expand responsibilities of park visitors and deleting certain prohibited activities. Delete responsibility for designated park department employees to report noncompliance of rules, regulations, and permits. Update park hours. Change reference from Canal Park to R.E. Olds Park. And R.E. Olds Park to Oldsmar Sports Complex. Provide for posting of hours therein and provide city manager or designee authority to confirm park hours and or declare the closing of any section or part of a park to the public. Add additional proper uses of facilities, revised title of section 42-39 to reflect protection of property, facilities, flora, and fauna. Add prohibition of alcoholic beverages and animals on piers. Specify that lost and found articles be directed to and retained by Leisure Services Department Director. Change title of section 42-43 to merchandising, vending, alms, peddling, contributions, fortune-telling, and petitions. Business tax receipts. Application and issuance and include common solicitations. Replace the term event permit with temporary use permit and specify the use thereof. Change title of section 42-45 to photography and filmmaking and update section to include filmmaking. Update section on public demonstrators to include reference to any special interest group, for-profit meeting or ceremony, rally, demonstration, or performance, and to update restrictions regarding that section. Change title of section 42-69 to bicycles, tricycles, and motorized conveyance, and provide that all vehicles shall give right-of-way to pedestrians or self-propelled vehicles. Update text to include current terms for motorized devices and recognize the American with Disabilities Act. Provide for city manager or designee approval for parking in closed parks. Delete section 42-91 on protection and preservation of wildlife as its terms are duplicative in another code section, and renumber the remaining sections of Chapter 42. Update section on animals in city parks to reflect allowable and restricted areas and treatment of animals. Update provisions for possession or discharge of toy firearms, fireworks, and explosives. Add non-discriminatory language and include waterways adjacent to parks in connection with bathing, swimming, and wading prohibited activities. Update section 42-113 to include waterways within or adjacent to parks. Authorize city manager or designee to provide written permission to post for sale signs on boats or vessels while docked or moored. Require a license agreement to make written application to the city manager or designee for any boat operating for hire. Update section 42-114 to include waterways within or adjacent to parks. Provide that docking and mooring of facilities in parks will be limited to non-commercial privately owned boats unless approved through a license agreement. Provide for the use of fountains, ponds, lakes, streams, bays, or any park waters or any waterways within or adjacent to any park or tributary. And prohibit the dumping of any substance or matter in storm sewers or drains flowing into park waters. Update fishing requirements and include waterways within or adjacent to any park. Change title of section 42-116 to hunting and weapons. Update restrictions for hunting and use of weapons on park property. Provide that city manager or designee may grant permission for trained persons to remove dangerous animals and be notified of the animal's disposition, and reference to Florida statute for regulation of firearms. Update criteria for use of picnic and cooking areas on park property. Update restrictions for game playing on park property. Prohibit livestock or other farm animals, reptiles, or birds kept as pets on park property except as authorized by the city in connection with a special event or approved park rental. Authorize operation of aircraft on park property only in an emergency situation and with permission of the city manager or designee. Clarify language as it relates to camping Add a new section to provide for prohibited activities in city parks. Add a new section to provide for special events on city property with the approval of the city manager, requiring permits and insurance, naming the city as an additional insured, and prohibiting the sale or consumption of alcoholic beverages at such events. Add a new section to prohibit gambling of any kind on park property unless approved by the city manager. Add a new section to provide for restrictions on trails, provide a definition for travel, and provide for compliance in accordance with applicable laws. Add a provision for the prohibition of littering, authorize the city manager or designee to issue a written permit for the use of a loudspeaker, public address system, or amplifier in parks, and provide that radios, musical instruments, and all other audio devices are permitted at a reasonable volume not to be heard from a location more than 100 feet from the source of the noise. Change title of section 42-144 to intoxicating substances and drunkenness to provide prohibition of the sale, consumption, or possession of alcohol, any alcoholic beverage within any park except by authorizing the city manager in his or her discretion, and prohibiting entry to park property by drunk or intoxicated persons under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or narcotics, and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. That was the second and final reading of ordinance 21 by title only.
Kudos.
Lee, don't top that. No, sir.
We have moved that presentation?
Correct.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak on this? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close it. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion?
Thank you to whoever on the Ordinance Review Committee tackled
That took time.
Chapter 42
Yeah, took
with
some time.
Chip.
All right, since you're ready to vote, roll call.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Siddell?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-21 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Item 6.
This is a public hearing for the second reading of ordinance 2021-22. I'll read that ordinance by title only. An ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending Chapter 66, Traffic and Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances to clarify advertising vehicle prohibition, provide that the city is authorized to designate loading zones and special permissions shall be directed to city manager or designee, delete reference to designation of no parking areas by mayor or city council, provide that illegally parked vehicles may be moved to a place designated by the city manager or designee, add a $25 fine for non-electric vehicles parked in electric vehicle charging spots, and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. That was the second final reading of ordinance 2021-22 by title only. I will remind you that there was a request for a change. We did make that change. In section 5 of the ordinance, subparagraph 9, that was added to reflect the parking of a vehicle within any parking space specifically designated for charging an electric vehicle without being connected to a charging station is a fine of $25. I think that was a request of
Councilmember, Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Knapp.
Yes, it was. All right, excellent. City Manager.
No, sir.
No presentation?
No, sir.
All right, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody on the public who wishes to speak on this? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close it. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Sensing you're ready to vote, roll call.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Siddell?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-22 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item 7.
The public hearing for, or second reading of ordinance 2021-23. I'll read that by title only. An ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, adding Article 5, operation of bicycles or motorized bicycles to Chapter 66, Traffic and Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oldsmar to provide for the applicability of traffic laws as it relates to bicycles or motorized bicycles, including operation on roadways, reckless and/or uncontrolled operation, compliance with traffic signal control devices emerging from alley or driveway parking, seizure, notification to owner, sale of seized vehicle or motorized bicycles, rights of owner prior to sale, and proceeds from sale of seized bicycles or motorized bicycles, and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. That was the second final reading of ordinance 2021-23 by title only.
City Manager?
No, sir.
Thank you.
No staff presentation.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
One, do you want?
I have a motion from Graber, seconded by Gannon. Discussion? Sensing you're ready to vote, all in favor, roll call.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-23 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you, Ahmed.
This is a public hearing for the first reading of ordinance 2021-24. I'll read that by title only. Ordinance 2021-24, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending Section 5.2.1 outdoor dining of Article 5, supplemental regulations of the Town Center Development Code of the City of Oldsmar to provide for outdoor dining using a revocable license agreement and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. That was the first reading of ordinance 2021-24 by title only.
Thank you, City Manager.
No, sir, no staff presentation.
Does anyone have any questions of staff? Go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone from the public wishes to speak? I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So,
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I'm excited.
Sensing you're ready to vote? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2021-24 passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. We already did item 9 and 10. Item 11, I understand Councilmember Graber has a comment to make.
Thank you, Mayor. Per Florida statute 286.012, a council member may not abstain from voting unless there is or appears to be a possible conflict of interest. Regarding agenda item 11, the commitment for title insurance that was included within the agenda packet is written on First American paper. I'm employed by First American, so there is a possible conflict of interest, so I am abstaining from tonight's vote on agenda number 11.
Outstanding. Thank you. Item 11.
Okay, item number 11 is the public hearing to approve the Douglas Road commercial plat. This is a Snyder hearing. And therefore, I need to swear in anyone that's going to speak. Anybody that's going to speak on this item, if you could stand up, raise your right hand, and be sworn under oath. You swear the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, Tatiana, do you want to go ahead and make your presentation on behalf of the city?
We don't have a formal presentation on this, so this is just a formal process that each development has to complete prior to issuance of the certificate of occupancy. So there are multiple lots on that development, so they all have to be combined into one parcel. So it's a consolidation replat basically. So we're combining 5 lots into 1 lot, and it has to go through a similar replat process. So for a retail facility, that will be the equipment for the pool, professional pool equipment sale, retail.
Okay. Did the planning board happen to hear this matter, and what was their recommendation?
Yes, the planning board met on August 14th, and they unanimously approved, considered the approval for the city council to move this replat of Romans replat.
Do you want your staff report entered into evidence?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone on, maybe you want to take it from here? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Does anybody on council have any questions? Staff? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll, City Manager?
No, sir.
As we go through the same public.
Public.
Okay, well, that was the part of it. Okay. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? We'll open the public hearing. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Love to see something new in that area.
Yeah, it's good, right?
saw
They're
the-
working on
Good
it.
progress. Okay,
Yeah.
Stetson, you ready to vote? Roll call?
Councilmember Graber is abstaining. Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Douglas Road commercial plat is approved with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Item 12.
This is a public hearing to approve the St. Petersburg Drive commercial plat. This is also a Snyder hearing. This was a new agenda item added. Anyone that's going to speak on this particular item that has not already been sworn in, please stand up, raise your right hand, be sworn under oath. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, city staff want to make a presentation on this one?
This is a similar replat, so there are 4 existing lots that will have to be combined into 1 parcel. And this will be along St. Petersburg Drive, and for the accountant's office, phase 1 of this building is already almost completed. So again, this plat is required prior to issuance of the CO.
And did the planning board also consider this one?
Yes.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, and what
The
was
same vote as for the prior one, so it was 5-1 unanimously approved, recommended approval for the city council.
Okay, and did you want to submit your report into evidence?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, does the applicant wish to make any? Okay. Any questions? All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing there's none, I'll close it. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion, second, discussion?
Excited.
It's looking good over there.
Yeah, it is.
It's looking really good. It's got a classy look to it. I love it.
Yeah,
I
it's great.
really love it. So, all right, sensing you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nath?
Yes.
Councilmember Cannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Petersburg Drive commercial plat is approved with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thanks for waiting. Had I realized, I would have moved you up sooner before we did these other ordinance at least. All right, city manager, you got anything else?
No, thank you.
That's enough for a night, huh?
I think so.
You are earning your money.
Thank you.
All right, city manager, item 13.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 13 is request council approval and authorization for the city manager to execute change order number 1 to work order number 7 from the process 2018-007 RFQ for Ardura Group Incorporated to provide professional engineering services for the design and construction services of the wastewater reclamation facility project, specifically the aeration system upgrades, which we talked about yesterday in the budget workshop. July 2020, council approved work order number 7 for design and engineering services to update the aeration system at the WRF. The original scope of work consisted of upgrading 2 of the 3 existing centrifugal blowers, controls, piping, and the associated air delivery system to support the wastewater treatment process. During the course of the design, it became apparent that all 3 blowers would need to be replaced. The 3rd blower, although newer and in serviceable condition, has a limited capacity such that it can only be utilized during low flow conditions at night. 3 upgraded blowers of equal capacity will not only allow matched capacity for complete redundancy, but will also provide surplus blower capacity for potential future flow increases or WRF expansion if required. The existing blower building footprint is insufficient for this configuration. However, the old Headworks building can be utilized for the upgrades with some structural modification and the addition of air conditioning for the electronics associated with the system. The consultant Ardura Group is under contract from the aforementioned RFQ with the city for utilities, general engineering services, design, bidding, and construction services for these have been initiated through work order number 7 of that contract. The change order number 1 will compensate for the additional engineering design for structural air conditioning and the 3rd blower upgrades, relocating the project to a more suitable footprint. The change order is a lump sum value not to exceed $45,366. Funding is available for change order number 1 to work order number 7 in the fiscal year 2021 capital budget in the 401 fund, and staff recommends approval.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion?
We got to get going on this project
I
before
know.
construction
Somewhere
costs
it costs
continue to
more,
go
right.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, sensing you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Anything else, city manager?
That's it. Thank you,
All right,
sir.
city clerk.
Oh, I don't have anything.
Happy birthday. I'll
thank
spare you. I'll spare you, it was bad. All right, city council. Item 14, council comments. Let's start with Councilmember Graber.
Thank you, Mayor. In terms of advisory board meetings, not much going on through now in the next council meeting, but the Code Enforcement Board is going to meet Thursday, September 2nd at 4 o'clock. I was able to go to Second Friday for a little until they canceled it for the rain. There were some folks there, like Jason had mentioned, about 40 or so. I just want to say there's a lot of buzz about that event, and everybody seems to be really excited about it. So it was a bummer that we got rained out, because it seemed like it was going to clear, and there was a lot of people that I was talking to that were going. So I'm really excited about September's event. And one thing that we all need to be cognizant of, the flood maps are changing August 24th. I encourage everybody to go to myoldsmar.com to get as much information as you can about those changes. Other than that, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Saraki.
Just I want to say happy birthday to Ann.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, Ann, thank you for all you do for me. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you have a special day. I'm sorry you're here so late. I really enjoyed my time with Andrew and Katie at the FLC. I'm sorry, Mayor, you had to leave. I don't know what happened, but I just wanted to tell you both that I really enjoyed my time with you and you gotten to meet a lot of people. I tried to introduce you guys to a lot of people from around the state, and I just wanted to tell you both, I thought you did a wonderful job, and I hope that you get involved in the Suncoast League of Cities. They would love to have you. You'd both be a perfect asset to the team. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gannon.
Yes, this past weekend was the Florida League of Cities Conference in Orlando. Lots of learning, lots of networking going on. I'm grateful for the opportunity to attend on behalf of our city. Also, just it's really hit me hard. Please keep Rob Feld, Kim Petey Feld, and Sarah Feld in your thoughts. It was tough to hear that tonight.
Horrible.
Yeah.
So I really have no other comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Understandable. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. As was discussed at last meeting, I got accepted into the next class for Leadership Pinellas, so we've got retreat starting next Friday. Cool. So I'm pretty excited about that. Just took a leadership assessment today in preparation for that, so I'm looking forward to that. Won't be able to run in the Armadillo Run because of that. I did get confirmation they're like starting right first thing in the morning on Saturday, so I won't have enough time unless I could run really fast. Which is not happening. And then also just about the FLC conference, my first one in person, was a really great opportunity to meet even people locally from around our area, just because the lack of things going on for the last year and a half. Met several people from Pinellas County and then all over the state. So really made some great connections there. A couple of things, workshops that I really enjoyed. One was about sustainability and energy. And a really cool thing I saw, Orlando is experimenting with, and they have one of many arrays. They call them a floater array, a floating solar array that they put out in retention ponds. And the Orlando International Airport has one in the shape of their logo. So
cool.
I thought it's like super cool. Obviously Orlando has a lot more means to make those types of things happen, but just thought it'd be something I'm sure Ashley would love to hear about that. One of the other things I was really geeking out about was one about transportation of the future, including a presentation by Beep, who has, of course, the AVA bus locally. I went to Lake Nona and rode on one out there on Saturday. And then the other group that was there was a company called Lilium, who does electric vertical takeoff jets. So think regional transport throughout the state, that they can go Tampa to Orlando, Miami. So I think there's some pretty exciting things coming in the future. They anticipate commercial service starting in as early as 24. So
cool.
There's some pretty exciting things on the horizon from a transportation perspective. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I do have a few things. Yeah, I was at the league. I had to leave early. I went early to go to the mayor's meeting, the Florida League of Mayors, and I had to leave early. I don't know what's changed in some of the curriculum, or whether it's just after you've gone for so many years, but there didn't seem to be the variety of curriculum. Maybe it was its first time back in person.
And there wasn't as many people either.
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know. It was,
Cut it out. They cut a lot of it out.
yeah, so, but in any event, certainly they worked hard at it. Okay, let me once again thank staff for all their work on budget and the budget meeting yesterday, and our city manager's final presentation. We appreciate you all working on that, leading us through it. It's a good experience, and it doesn't go unnoticed, the extra effort. I also want to thank the staff for working so hard to get the new website and the website information up, and also for all of the added pressures that the last couple weeks have caused, when we have a lot of citizens coming out, and some are unhappy, and some take to social media. I think sometimes some unfairly make statements on there that are unfounded. I want to publicly say and echo this of the team, that I think our decision to not waste the taxpayers' money and do a search committee and go through all that and go directly to appointing and hiring Felicia Donnelly as our city manager was the right thing to do. I think everybody on this council feels very adamant about that. I'm sure had it not been with some of the new rules on social media, we'd all be posting and giving our opinions, but we don't do that anymore. But I want to seriously thank the staff for dealing with the extra stress, because there is extra stress. I also want to thank this council, because regardless of where you are on the issue, I mean, whether I agree with you or not, that was so funny, but you know what whether I agree with you or not, I appreciate that everybody is stepping up and we're putting in more hours, we're putting in more effort, and the staff's doing it. And I don't remember, not to be unfair to any past councils or any time in staff where there's been that kind of extra effort to go into it. So as a team collectively, I think we should feel good about it. And I absolutely appreciate the growing number of citizens who have come out and taken the time to share their opinion and get involved and be patient for the most part. And most of them, except past mayors, took into their time. But you know, I'm not cutting that guy off. I'm just telling you, too much respect. All right, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We need to approve the tentative agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies.
So close.
You know what, I've done it so many times that, all right, I know I have an item to I2. All right, moving on, the next item is approve the, item number 15, approve tentative agenda for September 7th, 2021. Is there anybody who wishes to pull anything?
No, sir.
All right, this time I'd entertain a motion to approve it with adding to it a funding agreement from American Rescue Plan.
Yes. So
Approved.
moved.
Yeah, review, what's the right terminology?
It's
Approve?
going to be review and approve.
Okay, review and approve funding agreement from American Rescue Plan.
State of Florida
ARPA.
Division of Emergency Management for the ARPA money.
Now, see, I asked you how you wanted me to say it. This is all you said. This is all I said.
I found out.
Okay, now, so did the clerk get that?
Yes.
All right,
I make a
outstanding.
motion to approve.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Santino, you ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion, second. Discussion, no vote. We're adjourned.
Green roll.
Okay, we were at 5.
Yeah.